rice fallow area which are suitable for pulses, they will come under the cultivation. Next. I was talking about the the breeder seed production. What was about 1,000 quintal we used to produce in 13-14. Now we have taken to about 21,000. Now we are not increasing. Last year's figure we have not given, but we are keeping a check now because we feel that beyond that, it is a wastage. By using a seed hub program which is implemented, in 150 districts, about 150 districts, 150 seed hubs in agriculture and largely, in the AVK, that has really paid a dividend. And now we see that they are very successful and encouraged with the success, of the seed hub program in pulses. Now the same has been implemented, in ILC crops and again in the millets. And right side below, you can see how over a period of time, our in every crop, we see there is improvement in seed replacement rate. And the issues we in today's meeting, where our very eminent panelists will give us the input and guide us that where we have to move to. Establishment of the biofertilizer biopesticide hubs. As a matter of fact, they were not sanctioned because we thought of along with the seed, if we give a kit, of the rhizobium and again, of the trichoderma, and it goes to the farmers, definitely, there will be improve in the productivity. And, subsequently production will increase. It was sanctioned, but somehow or other, it was not implemented. So again, we are trying to push it up. Still, we believe that it can become a game changer. Inclusion of pulses in the public distribution system across all states. And if we see the pandemic, this time, corona, this thing, now you know that along with the wheat and rice, 1 kg of chickpea has been also given because we have enough, the stock with us now. This was the one way to dispose stock also and help, the poor people. But by and large, we see unless, we create a demand and the farmers get a better price, perhaps we cannot push up pulse production. So it has to go to public distribution system. And I feel that that is how we are able to sustain chickpea. And though there has been a national procurement in the pulses, in some major states like Madhya Pradesh, some districts in Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, particularly in central, some of the south, southern states. But by and large, that has been not implemented. And, the reason is storage problem. Government thinks that by procuring, they create a stock, that the stock is not clear, then there is a loss, in the storage. So that is actually coming at the expense. Again, I was telling the recent time consumption and sale of the most hardy crop, the thyroid. We are pushing this issue. But if a recommendation goes from here again very strongly, that is what we did in 2016, then perhaps, this issue can be dealt. Again, the government is thinking to go for a very special pulse production zone, and maybe, now the ICR has made a plan that in each district at least 3 commodities will be promoted where there is export potential. So here again, we can have a plan for the whole country that which districts, which particular specialty pulses are not. But, we can push up the production and that will give a avenue, for the export. Thereby, it will be helping, increasing, the farmers' income. And area enhancement commensurate with the recommendation. And we feel that if it is a link to the profit, like the government was thinking, along with particularly Uttar Pradesh, we gave a presentation that if the biological nitrogen is able to save money and it is saving, urea, that is the most precious, that can be spared from the CS crop. Why not some incentives to be given per hectare, for pulses? This is the way, pulse can be promoted. So we feel that growing pulse should be incentivized, and that is how, there is scope for pulses to come because they save resources like not only fertilizer, but they also, they save, the irrigation water. And we feel that there has to be a kind of dedicated effort for creating, dedicated storage facility and transportation for pulses. And I feel that in time to come, actual game changing is our post harvest processing and verification. Consequently, we have to develop a value chain in the pulses and demand is created. Then only, we'll be in position to make a better utilization and provide a better price to the pulse grower. Next one. And there are some researchable issues also, since the majority of the analysts and the people who have joined here, they are the scientists. We would also like to have, flag some issues where, we feel that that they require that the new technology has to come in the way, like, the CRISPR or the transgenic and many, this genomics technology, because unless by using these new tools we are increasing the productivity, perhaps the pulses in time to come will not be able to compete whatever incentive is given by the government. So the productivity is this, and we feel that there has to be a investment in the research, and we have to really exploit these new tools. And again, the unexplored gene pool, which is in wild species, we have to bring, we have to mainstream, the pre-breeding, not only one or two major crops like chickpea, pigeon pea, and moonbeam, but we have to do in all crops. And now it is time not only for the six major crops that we are working, we have to address, other six crops which are minor. They are grown in different niches because these major crops are not going to replace them. So the minor crops have to also, attract the attention of the researcher, and we have to incentivize them. And we feel that micro irrigation has to be adopted, and though government has given incentive and subsidy on micro irrigation in several states like Rajasthan have further incentivized it. But still, we feel that particularly in the central southern India, this has to be promoted. Again, we have to promote, improve crop production management practices because we feel that seed has reached, but many places, the management technology has not reached. Today morning, BG was also telling that the rice fellow said I had the seed has reached, but our management package has not reached. Somehow we have to do it, and again we have to think of deployment of the integrated pest and disease management as more and more new diseases based are coming. So we have to address them, and biological nitrogen fixation. We have to see how we can really improve upon that because that is the one boon to the all the legumes pulses, and we should not lose the ground to that. We have to go to moon. That should be one of the major, I think, research thrust, for us in pulses. And now the government, with the country, nutrition program that had been announced by the government of India, there is now more and more demand for the biofortified foods. So we have to really see that we improve the quality of the pulses, not only increase the protein content, but also improve the quality of the protein to increase its absorption in the body, and iron, zinc, and many these nutrients, they are very important. Safe storage, the demand of the time, and of course, we have to see that this value addition, becomes the reality, so that it pulses, they are not used, what we are using, but this is
आइटम लगाए हैं दो तीन
शौक का चीज है मैडम, जो है ना, अब बड़ी टाइम और मेहनत लगता है। हम तो देखे है शौक, लेकिन हम इंसान
आप अकेले कितना कीजिएगा, हमारे यहाँ क्या है कि हम भी करते।
Dr. Mishra, kindly mute everybody except the speaker. Thank you, sir, for opening this discussion. Along with me, Dr. Mrs. Meena Lathor is recording the proceedings of this meeting. She is also the editor-in-chief of Journal of Food Legumes. We thank Dr. N.P. Singh, Director IIPR, for opening this meeting and putting forth the issues and the achievements which have been made till now. Now, I would like to request Dr. S.K. Sharma to kindly take over. Dr. S.K. Sharma, sir, over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Aditya. Dr. N.P. Singh, the director of the institute, Dr. S.K. Jha, ADG at the ICR headquarters, eminent panelists, project coordinators at IIPR, Dr. I.P. Singh, Dr. Dikshit, Sanjeev Gupta, Dr. Shiv Shevak, Dr. Aditya, who's also the organizing secretary, and all those who are participating in this webinar. It appears there are 138 participants who are participating. First of all, let me wish you all a happy Teachers' Day. And fortunately, today is also the foundation day of the Indian Institute of Pulse Research. And I congratulate the director, all the staff, scientists, all the staff of the IIPR for making very good progress, which is evident from the presentation of Dr. N.P. Singh to make this country self-sufficient in pulse production. Dr. N.P. Singh just now gave a very detailed presentation on the issues, what are the challenges, and what are the strategies to make the country self-sufficient in pulse production, or to meet the growing needs so that we are not supposed to import pulses. As Dr. Now, in this panel discussion session, we have been given only 90 minutes or so, and I understand there are 12 participants, including me, panelists, and I have been asked to moderate also. And therefore, I feel that there are only 7 to 8 minutes for presentation for each panelist. Therefore, I would request everybody that we need to very brief and to the point. What are the points that you have, so that, and if there are queries by the participants, probably we have a session for about 40 minutes after 4 o'clock. That's the open discussion, perhaps we can there. Or, in the chat box, people can also put their queries, or through emails or so on, so that all issues, all queries, they are addressed. And first of all, I've been asked to make my points. And I must tell you that Dr. N.P. Singh has already mentioned that currently we are producing around 23 million tons from about 25 million hectare areas. And the demand is currently 25.5 million tons. And therefore, we are importing 2.5 million tons of pulses. And he has also given the projections that maybe by 2030 we require about 32 million tons, while 2050 we require 39 million tons. And therefore, we need to have an increase of pulp production, say, by adding 1 to 1.5 million tons per year to the pulse basket. Or we need to have an annual growth rate of about 2.2%. Now, we need to follow, as Dr. N.P. Singh said in the presentation, a multi-pronged strategy. I would like to highlight some 4 or 5 points that what could be the strategies, which have also been highlighted by directly or indirectly by Dr. N.P. Singh. One is the increase in yield per unit area. That calls for varieties having a high genetic potential with resistant to biotic abiotic stresses and possessing other desirable characteristics which are suitable for different regions, ecologies, niches of the states and the country. As we know that pulses have been ignored since time immemorial, they were grown on a very marginal soils, and therefore during the course of evolution, alleles for higher productivity were lost, and either they were lost or they are present in a very low frequency in the scattered germplasm. Therefore, it becomes essential that we are able to have a good collection, diverse collection, make hybridization to bring those alleles, high productivity alleles together. It also calls for broadening the genetic base through pre-breeding, or what we call as genetic enhancement, through intervarietal crosses, through interspecific crosses involving primary, secondary gene pool, where it is crossable. And our experience has been in lentil, chickpea, and mung bean that the integration of desirable genes from the wild taxa, crossable wild taxa, has been very, very rewarding. The another point is that the biotechnological tools and molecular biology tools that we have at our disposal, they must be put to use wherever they are required. The commercialization of BT chickpea and the BT pigeon pea has not been done as of now. If this is pushed forward, probably it would help to a greater extent. Similarly, the commercial exploitation of heterosis in pigeon pea in different ecologies can also help us. Another important aspect is the availability of the quality seed, which Dr. N.P. Singh has also said, because quality seed is one very basic component, particularly for poor farmers, farmers who are in inaccessible areas, and therefore our current efforts of increasing the seed production should continue in terms of seed hubs, community seed banks, seed village system, and so on and forth. The another point is that we must be, as Dr. N.P. Singh also mentioned, increasing the area under cultivation. We can increase the area under cultivation through horizontal expansion as well as vertical expansion. And as Dr. N.P. Singh mentioned, that one is the rice fallows. There is a huge rice fallow areas in the eastern states, 6 eastern states. And I was told that around 2 to 3 million hectare of rice fallow area still has not been put to use. If this rice fallow areas can be put systematically to use, probably it would be helping in increasing our pulse production. Likewise, the vertical expansion, like intercropping of pulses with main crops, and also growing short duration crops like summer and the spring mung bean and so on. Now, the next point is that the reducing the post-harvest losses. Around 20% of the produce is sometimes lost during the post-harvest management, and therefore there is a need if we can cut down this loss. The cut down of loss means increase in the production, and that could be achieved by improving our low-cost storage bins, their popularization, improving mini dal mills, and village-level processing units. The another important point that we were discussing yesterday also in a meeting, where there was a meeting in the Punjab government that how to do diversification in Punjab. Now, diversification only takes place if there is an incentive. So the farmers will go for pulses as an important crop if there is an incentive, if they feel that there is a higher level of income. And that can only be achieved by reducing the input cost, then the mechanization of pulses for sowing, harvesting, threshing, grading, and the minimal support price. And lastly, the value addition of the products of pulses. So the farmers feel have got an incentive, or they are motivated to take pulses as an important crop at their farms. And finally, the efficient transfer of technology. Particularly the farmers who are not well educated, they are in the rural areas, far-flung areas, and accessible areas. They require a lot of awareness. They need to demonstrate, and in the form of FLDs, mini kit trials, and trainings, demonstrations of the latest technologies, so that they become aware. And when they undertake pulses cultivation, they make use of the all these latest technologies. So these were the few points which I thought to share with you. And thank you very much. So now the next panelist is Dr. MC Saxena from ICARDA. And though all the panelists that we have with us are very well known in their field, but for the sake of convenience of younger scientists, younger workers, I'd like to mention that Dr. Saxena is an eminent agronomist and crop physiologist whose work at the International Center for Agriculture Research in Dry Areas on food legumes has enormously benefited the resource-poor farmers in West Asia, North Africa, Central Asia, what we call as Savannah region, and South Asia, particularly Bangladesh, India, Nepal, and Pakistan. He has served as a leader of legume program, and then as a director of germplasm improvement program, and also the ADG at the ICARDA for almost 2 decades. And he is very active in even today in promoting the cause of increasing pulse production in the country. So I would request Dr. Saxena to make a brief presentation.
Sir, since Dr. Saxena could not make it physically to this brainstorming session, he has sent his note and his thoughts. If the chairman permits, then I can read the thoughts shared by Dr. Saxena. Yeah, so now I am reading the note sent by Dr. M. Saxena. The progress in the production of pulses in the country in last couple of years has been heartening. Strong R&D efforts coupled with appropriate policy support have made this possible. Sustaining the production in the future will still depend on the same strategy, but the elements of the strategy will have to adapt themselves to the changing external environment, physical as well as socio-economical. The challenge to sustaining production increases will continue to increase in the future, particularly the ones associated with climate change. It is fortunate that strategies to meet these challenges are being discussed in this brainstorming session. While several elements would come up for the interventions by colleagues participating in this discussion, I would like to emphasize only 2 in the following short text. The first is that we should continue identifying the new niches for the introduction of pulses in the cropping systems in different agro environments because of changes in the production systems triggered by socio-economic and environmental changes. Substitution of crops, the national production of which is currently in surplus, in those areas where they have high environmental footprints, would be one strategy for opening up new niches for pulses production. The strategy to use new niches for pulses would necessitate that the productivity of introduced pulses is high enough to provide economic returns to the farmers. This would necessitate custom-made crop cultivars and production practices for these niches. The crop improvement scientists will have to develop research strategies To expeditiously achieve this, the crop breeders, geneticists, molecular biologists will have to jointly develop diverse genetic material through application of cutting-edge technology, and the crop breeders will have to test it in situ in different niches to identify the right cultivars. The selected cultivars will have to be high yielding, pest and disease tolerant, resistant, resilient to changing environmental conditions and abiotic stresses, and having quality with high consumer acceptance. The agronomist will have to develop agro techniques that permit full harnessing of production potential of these new cultivars in the new niches. Systems that permit conservation agriculture and other components of appropriate technology for each specific niche will have to be developed by the crop improvement scientists and agronomists working together in a decentralized yet multidisciplinary manner. Ensuring profitability of pulses to the producers will be important to sustain increasing production. This is a complex issue as it also involves institutional and policy interventions. An important strategy will be to empower farmers, particularly the youth, to do value addition to their produce in prevailing value chain process, village level processing of produce, safe packaging and storage, and e-marketing will enable farmers to get a large proportion of the actual price that consumers pay for the pulses. Crop insurance and assured procurement of produce on a realistic procurement price would be other important incentive for farmers to retain their interest and commitment to produce pulses. It is to be remembered that pulses have a major role in enabling farmers to sustainably manage their natural resources, and they also provide environmental services. These considerations should be factored in determining prices that farmers should be paid for their produce. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Aditya. Now we move on to the next panelist, Dr. Salimat, PM Salimat. Dr. Salimat has nearly 40 years of long professional experience, including state, national, and international organizations in various capacities. He has lastly served as the Vice Chancellor at the University of Agriculture Sciences, Raichur, Karnataka. He is serving as a member of the fellow in many professional associations. He is honored by 18 states, national and international awards, recognitions. He has been conferred with the prestigious NAS Fellowship. He has developed 31 high-yielding and disease-resistant varieties in different crops and published more than 300 research papers. And currently, he is also the chair of the RAC of IIPR Kanpur. So I would request Dr. Salimat to make his points.
Sir, we are trying to connect with Dr. Salimat. So in the meantime, can we take up the next panelist?
Okay. The next panelist is Dr. Masood Ali. Dr. Masood Ali does not require introduction. He is the former director of ICR IIPR Kanpur. He has served in NARS as well as ICR in various capacities, including project coordinator Chickpea, director of the institute for about 9 years, and then technical advisor pulses to the National Seed Corporation, New Delhi. He has won several awards. Importantly, Dr. Rajendra Prasad Pushkar, ISA Gold Medal, ISPRD Gold Medal, and ICARDA Recognition Award. Dr. Masood Ali, please.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma, and good afternoon to everybody. It's a great opportunity for me to share some of the points related to enhancing the pulse production in the country. At the outset, I would like to congratulate all the pulse scientists for achieving near self-sufficiency in the pulse production. now touching almost 24 million tons. Now I have I would like to give my presentation in three parts. The first, the national scenario. I have just tried to analyze the national scenario of the last 10 years. And it is seen that in chickpea, there is almost 30% increase in the area and almost 30% increase in the productivity. Some of these states like Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Maharashtra, they have recorded almost 150% increase in the area. It's a real commendable. Gujarat, Rajasthan, again almost 90 to 95%. But there are few states where there is a decline in the area. Now, UP is one where there is almost 35% decrease in the area. Again, in Bihar, 31%. Haryana, of course, 70%. That is, Haryana we can accept because that is a situation like that. But why there is a 35% decrease in the area of chickpea in UP and Bihar? It's a great concern. And if we analyze, we try to analyze, besides the management and government policies that might be there, now see in case of chickpea, after 2000, year 2000, and till date in 18 years, we have been able to give only two varieties of chickpea, desi chickpea. There is a not, excepting one from Meerut, there is not a single state released variety. Imagine in 18 years time, for Northeast Plain Zone, for UP, Bihar, West Bengal, we had no variety. And the variety that we have been able to identify in 2018, its productivity is 16 quintal. How a farmer would like to take a variety if in our breeding program itself its yield potential is 16 quintals? You would be surprised that in 90s, the varieties of desi chickpea that were released for Northeast Plain Zone, the yield level was 20 to 22 quintals. And today it is 16 quintal. Even the state released varieties, they had 20 to 25 quintals productivity. So there is a great concern really that the first thing is that we don't have variety as a matter of fact, it shows. And I don't know that our chickpea scientists in UP and Bihar really what are they contributing to the overall program? Not a single state released variety, imagine. Now coming to the pigeon pea, here again situation is good that there is a almost 26% increase in the area. Of course, yield increase is only 11% in the last 10 years. There have been states like Madhya Pradesh where there is almost 100% increase in the area, and Karnataka also almost 76%, Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand. But here again, the states like UP and Bihar, in 10 years they have lost the area, 24% loss in the area in Bihar for pigeon pea, 68% in Bihar. What is surprising is there is a loss in the area of pigeon pea also in the Gujarat and Andhra Pradesh. Gujarat lost almost 22% area, Andhra Pradesh 35%. Here again, if we see for UP and Bihar, I'm more concerned for Northeast Plain Zone. Here you would be again surprised that only recently we had a variety of pigeon pea released from IIPR. Otherwise, after 2005, we did not release variety of pigeon pea for this zone. Imagine if in the last 15 years there have been no release of any variety, how we can expect that really there would be increase in the productivity and area gain would be there. Now earlier a large number of varieties from BHU, from this Narendra Dev Agriculture University, from Agriculture University Kanpur, they were released a number of varieties. But in the last 15 years, I don't know again what has happened in the varietal improvement program in these states. In case of urad bean, there is a very significant increase in the area, I think highest 70% in the last 10 years. Of course, productivity increase is only 18%. Here, the states like Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, they have added a lot of area. In fact, Rajasthan almost 450% increase in the area. Madhya Pradesh 260%. But there are states where we have lost the area. Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, and Odisha. In case of mung bean, again, there is a 31% increase in the area, and productivity increase is quite high. I think this is the quite good, 35% increase. And Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, and Karnataka, they have really played very important role. But the states like Andhra Pradesh, Odisha, they have lost the area. Now, in case of lentil, there is no significant increase in the productivity. I'm sorry, in area, but the productivity has increased 50%. 50% increase in the productivity of lentil in the last 10 years. And the states like Madhya Pradesh, Jharkhand, and West Bengal, they have added, but here again, UP and Bihar, they have lost the area. See, lentil could have been a very important crop for UP and Bihar, as the chickpea is not performing well, but still we are losing the area in UP and Bihar. Now, since there is almost 50% increase in its productivity, from 6.5 quintal, now it is coming almost 9 quintal. I think there is a need to put more emphasis for spread of these varieties, especially in these states. Peas is another important crop which has been neglected in the sense that area still continues to be something like zero point 0.8 million hectares. There is some increase in the area, but its yield has increased by 28%. But UP and Bihar, again, they are losing the area. It is only Madhya Pradesh which has gained the area. My purpose of putting these things is that we must examine what has happened in the states where we have lost the area. Where we have gained, that is wonderful. We should also try to understand what have been the reasons for enhancement in the area. But in the states where we have lost the area, that's very important, and we must examine it. Now, if we come to some management aspects, our DZ also mentioned that, yes, I think management would be very important if we want to increase the productivity. And in case of management, there have been few very important things which have been recommended. For instance, foliar spray of 2% urea. It is now being practiced, and it is easy also, because even the farmers are using insecticides. I think they know, yes, they can easily go. Sprinkler irrigation, what we recommended, it's going on well. Secondary and micronutrients, it is being increasingly used, but we must know, for sprinkler irrigation, secondary and micronutrients, there is a government subsidy. As incentive from the government is there. So it is being followed, it is picking up. A raised bed system of planting that we have made recommendations, it is not fully being adopted in the same way, but opening furrows after 1 meter distance, that also serves the purpose to some extent, not fully, but it serves the purpose for good drainage. And I think it is being followed. In case of herbicides, pendimethalin, we made a recommendation that did very well, but there is a ban. Now for post-emergence herbicides, I think we have to emphasize more that it should be used. Now there are few things for increasing area. That's very important for horizontal expansion. And one is the rice fallows. We have been emphasizing for the last, I think, at least 25 years, I can say. But when I examined the area, I find there is no any significant increase in the last 10 years, 10, 15 years. Almost the areas of, you take urad bean, that for Rabi and spring both, continues to be around 0.9 million hectares. It means there is no increase. Despite all our efforts, the increase or bringing the rice, more rice fallow area under pulses, that has not happened. Second thing is, we made recommendations for intercropping sugarcane, intercropping pulses, short duration pulses in sugarcane. Again, this recommendation almost 2 decades back, it is not being followed. We know it, whether it is autumn sugarcane or spring sugarcane. This is not being followed. Now, what is the way? Dr. Sharma himself made the point that in Punjab, for crop diversification, they are asking for more incentives. Now, in the same way, I tell you, if we want to bring additional area of rice fallows under pulses, or we want to promote intercropping of uh, pulses in the sugar cane, there has to be incentive from government side. I think that kind of recommendation should go. Unless really we have some sort of incentives, perhaps it may not be uh, followed in a large scale. Again, important point is spring summer pulses. Now see here again, it's a very surprising also and painful to note that almost our recommendation goes again 20 years back or so, and so many varieties have been evolved for spring and summer cultivation of mung bean, but it's not increasing. Even in a state like UP, in the last 10 years, hardly 10,000 additional area has been brought. From 35,000 hectares, it is 45,000 hectares. In Bihar, there is no change. Why it is happening really? I mean, it's a very, very important thing. Andhra Pradesh has lost the area. Bihar has lost the area. Now, some addition has come from Odisha, because in Odisha that goes as a Rabi mung bean. Tamil Nadu again as a Rabi mung bean. Madhya Pradesh. Madhya Pradesh is one state. It's really commendable. The kind of promotive works they are doing for the pulses. In all pulses, of course, there is an increase in the area and productivity. Again, in the spring summer pulses, this mung bean, Madhya Pradesh has added additional area, whereas UP has not added. Again, in case of mung bean also, the same situation remains. Here again, Tamil Nadu has added, but Andhra Pradesh, UP, they have reduced the area. So what I want to say, that having so many good varieties, having so much uh, focus being given for horizontal expansion of area through spring and summer pulses, it's not picking up. Now, is it really that stray cattle and blue bulls that is making difference in UP and Bihar? But why not in Madhya Pradesh? We have to examine really why it is not happening in the Madhya Pradesh. Now, another recommendations of in the management has gone for application of hydrogels. Hydrogels for the rain-fed areas. And I must mention here that almost, I think, almost 20 years back, when I was serving, we made a recommendation. Actually, we tried to evaluate Jal Shakti from NCL Pune, and we found it is useful, but its cost was prohibitive. It was very costly. Now, IRI has developed this PUSA hydrogels, and our scientists under All India Coordinated Program, they have shown that yes, it's quite effective. Now, the first thing is there should be a good demonstrations by the scientists on their own farm first, at least half-acre farms. Half-acre plot should be there. In half-acre plot means 4,000 square meters. They must see themselves. Hydrogel, no hydrogel. What is the kind of uh, effect? And then they should take up it as a demonstration on the farmer's field. Because the technology we develop, we must examine ourselves, get satisfaction, and then take to the farmer's field. So hydrogel is another thing which really need to be tested first and then promoted. Now, coming to the, of course, varietal aspects, a good number of experts are there, but my concern again goes as agronomist, I tell you. See, now we have been listening, at least I know that for 2.5 decades, varieties having drought tolerance. I'm really yet to witness a variety having drought tolerance, either in chickpea or pigeon pea. Now, it is only the maturity which has led to, that saving the crop from terminal stress. What is the drought? Drought tolerance characteristics which has been really incorporated, ingressed. Now, ICCB 4958 again almost 3 decades back, which was which is known for a good routing system, but this did not serve the purpose. As far as our productivity is concerned, it did not serve because root alone is not enough. Unless we combine with the water use efficiency and also the its efficacy to avoid the stresses, physiological mechanism. So really, it has not served. Again, for the abiotic stresses, if we take salinity, still we don't have variety. We released a variety in the name Karnal Channa 2 that is for salinity conditions, but it was never really tested at various level of salinity. Because of its good yield, yes, it was released and it has been a good variety. But my point is that we have not been able to address that thing. Still that remains. In case of pigeon, we don't have varieties for waterlogging, though a lot of research efforts have gone both at national, international institutes. But what is the variety? See, as a farmer, as an agronomist, I wish to say Helicoverpa continues to be the big enemy. Here again, our international institutes, they said, okay, ICP 506 is one line which has tolerance to Helicoverpa. We could see it is only confined to some of the vegetative species. Even today, we don't have. We can't say that we have a donor really. Many times we get complacent that yes, we got something, but what is that something? Unless we are very honest in having introspection to what extent really these genotypes or these lines have uh, uh, for the biotic or abiotic stresses, I think that problem will continue to be there. Of course, our transgenic program has been wonderful, but and some problem is there that we cannot take it further. That's a problem. But of course, in many other crafts, we have addressed those problems. But some of these things, I think we need to address. And finally, I would like to say that yes, we are having a good progress in increasing the area productivity of chickpea, especially in central and south zone. But I think the two diseases, dry root rot and collar root rot, I think they need to be addressed. I could see in the reports of the PC chickpea, which clearly says that there is no stable, resistance donors for dry root rot. And for collar root rot, we don't have even the techniques really, reliable techniques. Even today, we don't have reliable techniques for the collar root rot. How we'll go further? So I think these are the some of the issues I think we need to see, and there has to be genetic gain, genetic yield gain. Really, it has to come. This is what I said. That when the old varieties of chickpea, they were released at 25 quintals yield level, and today's varieties they are just touching 2 tons. We have released varieties of chickpea for drought. What is the yield? 15, 15 to 16 or 18 quintals. And our normal varieties, which we don't call as a drought resistant, their yield in the central India is almost 18, 20 quintals, more than that. So I think we need to examine very critically when we are putting some stigma, some tag to the varieties that it is a drought resistant, it is a salt tolerant varieties, it is a helicoverpa tolerant varieties. I think we should not use these things unless really there is a very conclusive information because once we accept it, then we are not moving further because we feel, yes, we have done it. But really, we have not done it. I think yield gain in the varieties we have to achieve. I tell you, because as I said, then when the old varieties we try to have analysis, I could see, I mean, there have been the varieties of pigeon pea giving the yield level of 3.5, 3.8 tons. The varieties of chickpea giving yield of above 3 tons, 3 to 3.5 tons. So I think we have to move further and we must try to really achieve it by our management practices. So thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. These are some small comments, what I thought I must share. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for giving a very good analysis of the increase and decrease in area. And definitely, you rightly said that we need to examine the trends, why the area is decreasing in important states like UP, Bihar, which were known to grow pulses in the past. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Now we move on to Dr. Salimat. Is he around, Dr. Salimat? Dr. Aditya?
Dr. Salimat Saab is not able to join, sir.
Has he joined, Salimat?
Yeah, because he's, I was told he's somewhere where there is no connectivity of the internet.
Okay, then we move on. Then we move on to the next panelist, Dr. B.B. Singh. Dr. B.B. Singh, as you know, was the former ADG Oilseed Pulses at the ICAR headquarters. Before this, he served as a project coordinator, Malad. He has been involved in developing innovative crop varieties and useful information leading to advancement of genetics and breeding of pulses since for the last 34 years. A total of 14 improved varieties and 13 novel genetic stocks of different pulses were developed by him. Dr. B.V. Singh, please.
Thank you, Chairman Saab. It is one of the best brainstorming I have been attending since last. As Dr. Masood Ali has very rightly pointed out, this is time for introspection and putting the things in right direction. The strategy everybody knows. It is the enhancing genetic yield ceiling, better management, increasing the area. But Dr. Ali has presented the gaps. We have to analyze our gaps, our strengths and our weaknesses, and accordingly we have to follow the things. Then only such brainstorming are fruitful. As Dr. N.P. Singh has presented, the brainstorming has nothing to do with the increase in yield. Actually, if whatever gain we have achieved, we analyze, it is because of only three factors. The project which has been sanctioned by Honorable Sri Nitendra Misra at time in the year 1915-16 are producing the seed by ICR by opening the seed hubs, and money he has been sanctioned for the stabilizing the price of pulses or procurement of pulses and the large scale demonstrations. Dr. Ali has already pointed out that what kind of varieties they have gone into the seed chain and how it has lead to 15 to 25 million tons of production. Several questions is still unanswered, as told by Dr. Ali, that collar rot, root rot, and the helicoverpa. These are things which are still, when we joined the pulse group, we are listening about it. There is no resistant sources. Still the same is there. For that, sir, I think we did not have, made any effort, as lot of microbial consortia are available to mitigate the biotic and abiotic stresses where we do not have the lead or genetic enhancement. I may like to put two examples of legumes, soybean and groundnut. Several numbers of uh, microbial consortia, they are available, they are being used by the farmers. If you look to if you go to any university in Gujarat during the groundnut season, lakhs of farmers are coming to the university counter to purchase this. The same thing I also proposed in this project. Money was also sanctioned, but some research lead as well as the multiplication could not take place. I think for color root rot, and drought, there is a lot of scope to go for this. And regarding the crop improvement and other strategy, Dr. Sharma has taken up the crop improvement part. I don't want to repeat it. And nobody can give better solution than Dr. Masood Ali regarding the crop management. I think this is all I wanted to say, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. B.P. Singh, for highlighting some very important points. That the programs which, as you mentioned, which started way back in 1516, like seed hubs, opening procurement of pulses, demonstration of pulses, probably they have given dividends now in terms of yield, increase in yield. And so thank you very much for giving some very useful point of microbial consortia in legumes like soybean in MP, then in Gujarat, in case of groundnut. I think that's very important point. Thank you very much, Dr. B.V. Singh. Thank you so much. Now we move on to our next presentation of Dr. Nadarajan. Dr. Aditya, is Nadarajan available?
Sir, actually, he is also not available. There was some issue. So, yeah, we could not connect to him. He is not in Madurai, he is in village actually, native village.
Okay. So then we move on to the next presentation by Dr. Kiran Sharma from ICRISAT. I hope he is available. I would like to briefly introduce Kiran Sharma. Kiran Sharma is currently DDG Research, ICRISAT, and the theme leader of the Agri-Wellness and Innovation Platform and principal scientist cell biology at ICRISAT based in Hyderabad. Ken Sharma has over 25 years of experience in genetic engineering and molecular biology for crop improvement, performing multidisciplinary research with a thorough understanding of global agriculture R&D needs, trends, needs, and challenges. He has over 150 publications with an H index of 28 and citations exceeding 3,300. I would request Dr. Sharma to make his points. Dr. Kiran Sharma, please.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma. My greetings. Nice seeing you. Dr. MP Singh, Director IPR, Dr. Sharma, colleagues and friends and eminent colleagues and panelists. Greetings from ICRISAT. And I thank the organizers for providing this opportunity. I think it's a very important topic, which is also of direct interest to ICRISAT as well as being a partner of the Indian Council of Agricultural Research. My best wishes to IIPR for its Foundation Day and also a happy Teachers' Day to all the teachers present around. So India is a proud nation that has enjoyed self-sufficiency in food grain production and sustainable food security despite the increasing population and various climatic stresses. However, there is no room for complacency. I think the word complacency was also brought up before because the country is still facing severe challenges in pulses and oilseed sector. Poor productivity and low gross production compels India to resort to frequent imports for meeting the domestic demands of pulses. And also the widening gap between demand and supply often leads to skyrocketing of these prices in domestic market, which is a cause of major concern for general public and the government alike. The Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi, while launching the DD Kisan channel on 26 May 2015, urged and motivated farmers to work hard in a mission mode for achieving self-sufficiency in pulses by 2022, when India will be celebrating its Platinum Jubilee for independence. In 2007, the integrated scheme we call ISOPOM, it included pulses as a component, which was merged in the National Food Security Mission. But despite having such schemes for decades, while pulses production has increased substantially in the recent times, India has not achieved self-sufficiency in pulses and edible oils as well. This clearly is due to the inherent weakness and failure of our strategy and to achieve self-sufficiency in pulses. And I think a lot of reasons were alluded to in the by the previous speakers. We need to address key constraints linked to science, agribusiness, and post-harvest losses, besides several policy interventions. And one of the most important constraints to legume production is lack of adequate output markets. Markets for legumes are thin and fragmented in comparison with the cereals, which have assured markets. The government procurement of legumes may not be as effective as it is for the cereals and other crops. Especially the price spread or the market margin for legumes is much higher than the rice and wheat due to higher post-harvest costs. Share of farmers' returns in consumers' price is much lower for legumes than the rice and wheat. So this is some of the observations noted by the economists. So I think we need a multi-pronged approach to address some of these challenges in achieving self-sufficiency in pulses. For example, the main strategies then need to be considered in on modifying the price issue, especially faced by producers, include trade policies, exchange rate policies, sectoral policies, price control, farm support prices, public storage, input markets, and also sustaining the incremental increases in the pulses, especially the MSP for that. Farm mechanization should be done by bringing all the small landlords or landholders of pulses together by focusing on powered machinery and forming a group to share the farm inputs. For example, owning a tractor is a high cost proposition as it is not fully utilized. That needs to be made more efficient by creating a market for tractor service. For example, like Uberization of tractor services. Again, we are pursuing this in our agribusiness approach here. As quality of pulses deteriorates fast and the associated post-harvest losses of 20 to 25%, I think Dr. N.P. Singh also alluded to that. It would need better handling, the produce by creating public-private partnerships, especially involving primary processing, warehousing, and transportation. The role of genetic enhancement has been nicely covered by all the previous speakers, especially Dr. S.K. Sharma and Dr. Masood Ali, considering the difficult to breed and intractable traits in pulses. We need higher strategic research investments for developing agroclimatic based varieties, for utilizing modern technologies, like developing short duration and pest and disease resistant cultivars, with adequate funding support for R&D, for continuous crop improvement. We cannot, stop at any stage. This has to go on. Besides this, also the integrated pest management modules need to be followed in pulse crops to minimize multiple disease and pest attack to ensure high productivity and profitability. Again, it has been alluded previously, efficient variety turnover by modernizing of our crop improvement practices to enhance the genetic gains, including the routine use of marker-assisted breeding for major constraints that impact crop resilience. The fact about the genetic gain cannot be overemphasized, especially in view of the comments by Dr. Masood Ali. We need better policy environment for introducing products of modern technologies, especially transgenics for insect resistance in pigeon pea and chickpea. and also creating a congenial environment for utilization of some of the new, precise and efficient technologies like gene editing, uh, of which we have already seen plenty of good examples, even towards commercialization of several events for efficiency in breeding and crop sustainability. In a recent decision, which is as new as August 24, 2020 by the US Department of Agriculture on gene editing, edited rice, and also the decision of the same product by the regulatory authorities in Colombia, it clearly indicates that rice with broad spectrum resistance to bacterial blight disease developed using CRISPR-Cas gene editing technology that was submitted for review requires no biosafety regulation and can be treated as any conventionally bred rice. So I think these are some of the facts which need to be highlighted while developing our own policies on regulation or deregulation. Besides, we also need to strengthen our Kharif pulse production in the country, especially the accelerated pulse production program that should continue. Besides, to increase area and production of pulses, as already indicated, non-traditional areas need to be encouraged to grow pulse crops. This will involve expansion of area under pulses, especially by utilizing fallow lands, as was already indicated, and also reclaimed wastelands for pulse production. A lot of work at NICRISAT and our partners in India have been done on specific water harvesting and conservation management practices that should be designed based on regional zones. The farmers also need to be educated about direct marketing. It's not just crop production. I think someone mentioned before about the package of practices, but we also need to teach them about direct marketing. What are the government support price schemes, selling at near rural periodic markets, contract marketing arrangements with the processors, wholesaler, traders, or other bulk buyers. This will involve increasing the facilities for marketing of all pulse commodities, especially through platforms like ENAM or national agricultural markets. There's also a need to blend domestic price policy with tariff policy, such that domestic price of pulses is stabilized and assured profits to pulse producers are ensured. Besides, import duties on pulse need to be calibrated in response to the demand and supply situation. The policy instruments which are detrimental to free markets, such as stock limit orders, trading movement controls, licensing requirements, and other controls, need to be removed in a phased manner. There's also a possibility of having committees, especially for each state, on strategic pulse production plans that delineate input requirements much in advance. This type of committee should administer the plan and work through state line departments of agriculture with the support of KVKs. Additionally, we also need special attention to pulse seed delivery systems, including a multi-pronged approach, utilizing quality seed availability and increased profitability for farmers that can help bridge the demand-supply gap of the pulses, and also strengthening seed delivery system by encouraging high-quality seed production of pulses in one of the important strategies, especially for increasing production in pulses. This would also need increased seed replacement rate for high productivity. Again, this was also alluded by the previous speakers. Since seed storage for the next season is difficult, especially in the humid areas, we need good storage facilities similar to cold storage facilities available for potatoes and other crucial commodities. So in conclusion, I would just say that we need a multi-pronged strategy for enhancing pulse production in the country, looking at vertical growth in yield through genetic enhancement, raising yield ceiling and productivity enhancement, and also horizontal expansion of the crop to new niches. Strengthening of public-private partnerships, especially by involving the small and medium-scale seed sector, and strengthening of the value chains, and more importantly, the value addition to create an additional the market pull. I think they can go a long way in ensuring self-sufficiency of pulses in India. Thanks a lot and look forward to the discussions after this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sharma, highlighting certain very good points. Rightly said that there is no scope for complacency, as there's going to be a gap between the supply and demand. We need to follow the multi-pronged strategies, farm mechanization, public-private partnership, and strategic research using certain modern tools like gene editing, which doesn't require any regulatory binding. So thank you very much for giving very good points. So we move on to the next speaker, Ashutosh Sarkar. Dr. Ashutosh Sarkar has more than 35 years of experience in food legumes, breeding, and genetics. As a coordinator involved in planning, managing, and administering South Asia and China regional program, coordinating ICARDA's research and development programs, including food legumes with national institutions for South Asia region, collaborating with national programs, international organization, donor community, develop Bible research for development projects, developing new partnerships. Dr. Sarkar has been developing and managing a number of national and international projects in terms of their implementation, manpower recruitment, and so on. So now I request Dr. Sarkar to make out his points. Dr. Sarkar, please.
Thank you, Chair, colleagues and friends. Dr. NP Singh, Dr. Aditya, Dr. IP Singh, the organizers of this dialogue. First of all, on behalf of ICARDA family and on my own behalf, I would like to express my deep sense of gratitude to IIPR and ISPRD to invite us. My colleague, Dr. Shiv Kumar, is also here. As you know that most of the speakers, and as we could see that Dr. NP Singh's presentation, all points, whatever now at present scenario you are adopting, and what we should be done in the coming years, even up to 2030 or 2050, he has given a very good projection. And our earlier speakers also, they have mentioned a lot of points which are very much valid. I would like to add some few points. You see that in the context of climate change, we have to look for these climate resilient traits or genes or alleles in our genetic gain program or genetic enhancement program of all the crops. It is site specific, it is agroecology specific, and we have to look into that. For example, that for lentil, for central India, it can go for 120 to 25 days maturity or in the northwestern plain zone. But in Eastern India, definitely you have to look for around 100 days or less than 100 days, which will be good in case of that traditional farming or rice fallow farming. In that way that we have to look for this kind of traits and aggregation of this or pyramiding of these traits in a single genotype, in a single segregant. To do that, we have to as the chairman knows that that some good work has been done. The last week, actually, we are attending this All India Coordinated Program that for mulart as well as for chickpea, and a lot of recommendations, a lot of discussions are held, and we are enlightened from that discussion of panel speakers or chairs or co-chairs of those sessions. And has been mentioned by Dr. Ali that for last 20 or 25 years, a lot of recommendations which have not been taken into consideration yet in our research programs. Maybe we have to look into that. For example, that we have to look for these herbicide tolerant, post-emergence herbicide tolerant varieties both for rice fallows as well as for clean or know that clean cropping. We have to look for that because wheat is the major menace of pulses, that growth and pulses cultivation as well. As we have seen that pulses are a group of crops which are highly vulnerable to a range of biotic and abiotic stresses. So we have to take into consideration, looking into the fact that that specific agroecology is how it is appearing. We have to address that, and based on those observations, we have to develop our that breeding or research programs. No doubt that it is, you have seen also that in the process of working with the farmers in many of these as upscaling projects, that agronomy or crop management is the key of pulses, that yield gain. It is not only variety. Variety is there. No doubt there should be potential varieties, but we have seen some of our observations that about 32% of yield increment has been seen from varieties, but 62 or 63% from agronomic management. So, and Dr. B.B. Singh ji has mentioned that we have not exploited yet the consortium of that is a rhizobium or consortium of agents, bioagents to be that implemented or to be adopted in cultivation of pulses. You say that when we take into consideration that how many, what percentage of farmers, you see pulses are grown mostly by small and marginal farmers. And at the adoption level of recommended practices, it is very low. When we, in our baseline survey, we have seen that the farmers, even they use only seed and 2% urea, which is not costly, because you have to see also socioeconomic condition of the farmers. It is okay with big farmers, lead farmers or medium farmers who adopt those recommended practices, and they got very good result. For example, sprinkler irrigation, all the government subsidy is there, maybe 80 or 85%, but for the small farmers, their seed money, what they have to from their side, they are not able to even give that one to get a sprinkler set. No, this is, we have to look into, that's a policy matter, government policy, definitely. We have to look, government will look into that, but we have to sensitize them, we have to give them the message that how these small and marginal farmers can get benefit of that, all those subsidies. Even the next year, when we went back to the farmer, previous year we gave all this, rhizobia, then all seed treating agents, everything. Next year, when we came back to that same farmer, did you plant lentil or grass pea? Yes, planted. What that recommended practices you used? We said, no, this year we did not get all those things from any of the agents from your project or any other projects. We did not use that one. Which means that all this cumulative effect is the less productivity, which is around 950 or 1 tons. As Dr. N.P. Singh mentioned that right now 25 million hectares and another 4 million hectares, 29 million hectares, if we cultivate with all range of pulses together, even 200 kg yield increment through agronomic means and so genetic means, it can be achieved. See how much total production we can gain. We can easily calculate that. My third point is that you see always we talk about the undernutrition, nutritional management or malnutrition, all these parameters. Even in South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa, these are mostly prevailing. Even in South Asia, in my country, in Bangladesh, Nepal, India, particularly Eastern India, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, some of the states, this malnutrition is rampant. And that is mostly, if you again map it, you will see that it is in the rural areas or tribal areas. On this, the people, they cannot afford mung bean, black gram, or high-priced pulses. There are lot of underutilized pulses are there, is being grown in every corner of this country. For example, horse gram, it is cultivated in Orissa. Rice bean, French bean, a lot of other beans are there which are that daily protein supplier of the people of hill or mountainous area. So we have to look into, maybe we have to look back to improve these crops, underutilized, or always we call even orphan crops, even grass feed. As Dr. N.P. Singh mentioned, that we have to look for lowered up varieties, and we are with IIPR, we are providing them lowered up but high biomass. This crop is, as that day I told that this crop is very much important with respect to that leafy vegetable, with respect to fodder, even forage, even seed. You say, as I still remember that 4.5 million tons of grass feed is being grown in India, mostly in Chhattisgarh. And where this material is going, we are eating in one or another form. So we are in the process of developing the lowered up, few lowered up varieties have already been released, and recently that Vidhan Khesari one released, and from IGKBB. But we have to give more emphasis for this crop. I understand that for the last few years, ICR is working with ICMR on lifting the ban on trade. So maybe we have to work on that to lift the ban, so the farmers will not be discouraged to grow it. But there is no ban on eating. There is no ban on cultivation. The only ban on trade, and trade and storage. So you see, the farmers are the victims. The growers of grass feed are the victims, because they silently they sell it to the middleman. They take it, and second middleman they take it to the millers who make besans, adulterating with the chickpea and pea besan. So they are doing, so are using it. So in that case, there is no harm to develop these low toxin varieties with a high biomass for various purposes. Again, that if we want to, in my view, we should not be only self-sufficient. So as Prime Ministers know that slogan that vocal for local, vocal for local for global. That not only our industrial products, but our agricultural products is to be global. For example, the Kabuli chickpea market in the Middle East, it can be even small seeded because they eat it in different form. Where they eat it as it is, then large seeded Kabuli chickpea is very much $double. It has premium price. India is exporting about 50,000 tons of Kabuli chickpea in that kind of international market. But small seeded even 25 to 30, 35, because they grind it, they make it hummus, in Middle East in their food habit. When they make it hummus, it doesn't matter big size or small size, because they want flour to make hummus, the paste, chickpea paste. Likewise, lentil is a small seeded lentil has a premium price. In our program in India, I will not go for bigger seed size than 3.2. We call it medium. That has a market within India, but even outside. But always the small seeded lentil has a very premium price, which seed weight is about around 2 grams per 100 seed, 1.5 to 2 grams or 2.1 grams, per 100 seed. For example, Bangladesh imports about 300 tons of lentil from Canada, 3 lakhs from Canada, from Australia, from Turkey. Is a neighboring country. Even India can export lentil to Bangladesh market. So that small seeded, that lentils. So we have to look for the trades, the breeders. We have to look for the trades for industrial use, that for industrial purpose. That what are the trades, what are the that international market demand. We have to, and then we have maybe recast our breeding program in that way. So this is all I wanted to say. That other speakers, they have covered other areas. Iran has also covered those areas. This is all about, Mr. Chairman, that there are other points. I think Dr. Shiv is there. He'll just add with that one, along with his own know that views and concepts. Thank you very much, colleagues and friends and Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Sarkar, for highlighting a few points, such as you said, the herbicide-resistant varieties, particularly under post-emergence conditions. And rightly said that the crop management is very important besides the improved variety. Microbial or the consortia or the bioagents, they need to be exploited. And also you said about minor pulses like horse gram, rice bean, lathyrets, etc. They also need a lot of attention. Thank you very much, Dr. Sarkar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we move on to the next panelist. The next panelist is Dr. Puran Gaur from ICRISAT. Dr. Gaur has led the chickpea breeding program of ICRISAT for the past 17 years. During this period, 60 chickpea varieties have been released in 8 countries on ICRISAT bred material. He has also been engaged in enhancing adoption of improved varieties. And in recognition of his outstanding work, he has been awarded ICRISAT's highest scientific award, the Doreen Margaret Marshall Award for 2018 by the institution's governing body recently. And he has been also engaged in enhancing the adoption of the improved varieties. So with this brief background, I would request Dr. Gaur to make his points. Dr. Gaur, please.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma, and good afternoon to all of you, specifically Dr. Jha, Dr. NP Singh, the eminent panelists, and all. This is a very important discussion on how we move from near self-sufficiency in pulses to full self-sufficiency and sustain it. And many good points have come up, and almost every important point have been mentioned. I think this is all about how we have sustainable enhancement in pulses production, and this will depend on actually how the farmers they cultivate pulses and make their investment in pulses cultivation. And when you see from farmers' point of view, actually, they have some criteria, their own criteria, and some of them is like the net profitability from them, and comparative risk when they have the choice of crops, and then also ease of cultivations. So when we, consider developing a strategy for sustaining the enhanced production, we have to keep in mind that, what farmers, they require. They need enhanced production, but at the same time, profitability, which will come from, policy support and other, how we reduce the cost of cultivation, and risk reduction, which is stability in production. And also we should not ignore that, ease of cultivation, which is, mechanization, how, we can make this crop more amenable to mechanization. So they have competitive advantage. And as in the morning, DG ICR, Dr. Mahapatra said that, this is all about, the technologies, a combination of technologies and policies, which will make a difference. And we already see that, where we have reached is because of the, the technologies and policies. And it has been said that, these seed hubs, which have helped a lot in enhancing adoption of varieties, contributed significantly along with, expansion of area. But we see that, there are scopes, further scopes. We see that there has been, increased adoption of varieties, but when it comes to agronomic practices, as has been said by many, that still there is a slow adoption of technology. And some of the technologies can make big difference which are available there, like need-based application of macro and micronutrients. There are, evidences that simple application of molybdenum in some areas, sulfur, it makes a big difference. So how can we enhance adoption of agronomic practices? Even planting method like rice planting in rainy season is, very helpful. So adoption of, technologies is still, we need to work on that. Also, we need to consider stability in production, which is very important. How we can have further, enhance resistance, tolerance, and agronomic practices which reduce the risk to farmers. And we see that in recent years, recent decades, climate variability has become a big threat to the stability. And for that, we need dedicated efforts. We need varieties, which are climate resilient. Of course, it has been mentioned, short duration varieties are important because they reduce the risk. But at the same time, some of the traits like, heat tolerance, which is, we see in post-rainy season legumes, it is available there, should be exploited. And all the varieties which we develop should have a focus on, climate resilience. Also, we need to further enhance our efforts in some areas which have very high potential of impacts, like hybrid pigeon pea. Lot of progress has been made, but this is the area where we have to further enhance our efforts. We need to have hybrids which are suitable for different agroecologies, and at the same time, seed production, refine the seed production practices, and also production practices for hybrids. That will have big impact. Another area which I see very high impact is like reducing crop duration. Particularly, I will say pigeon pea. I mean, farmers can't afford to have like one crop in a year. If we have pigeon pea varieties which keep very high yield and mature in 120 days, allow another crop in another season, that will have a big impact. Particularly, I see in Madhya Pradesh, when they are looking for option for a soybean, they don't have actually. And if they have, we have varieties of pigeon pea which can mature in the same duration, they will love to actually have pigeon pea there and have, because they can't miss, the post-rainy season crop, wheat or chickpea. So we need that. So these are some areas where, we need to make dedicated efforts. And also, considering the requirement, the changing requirement, you see the shift in cultivation, expansion in area, sowing date, the requirement of variety is also changing and rapidly, needed. I think we need to increase our speed in development of varieties and technologies, and also in enhancing their adoption, both place speed. And this is needed. And particularly, I will say for varieties, we have now tools and technologies which can expedite, which can reduce the duration we take for development of varieties, like speed breeding, use of markers in early stage for selections, precision phenotyping. All these combined together, we can reduce, the time which we take for taking varieties and developing varieties. Similarly, we also need to speed the adoption. And I just want to share here one our experience that, of course, seed hub and seed, availability, which we see clearly enhance adoption. But there's another thing which we can do is that when we develop a variety, if we can make available, a small seed sample to large number of farmers, it really increases adoption very quickly. And we have experimented that earlier when, there was a long back when Anigri was a dominant chickpea variety in Andhra Pradesh, and it was a challenge to replace it. And we had a suitable variety, J11. What we did is we distributed, samples 1 to 2 kg to thousands of farmers, and then worked together with the university for production of breeder seed, worked with the seed corporation. So this, supply of seed samples to large farmers created demand, and then it coupled with other factors, we could replace variety in few days. So few years. So this is how, we have to have speed in these things. I think, there are many other avenues where we see the potentials we can enhance and sustain the productivity. Also, there was a mention about, about the nutritional quality. I said that, these are important because of their nutritional quality, we always say, but there are opportunities that we can further enhance, protein content and their micronutrient contents. And again, I will finally emphasize on the mechanization of pulses. This is going to play very, very important role in pulses. And we also already see that in some of the crops like chickpea and lentil, now we have machine harvestable varieties. And we need to see that, that my dream is that in future, almost all the varieties should be machine harvestable, and we can achieve that. And similarly, there are some other areas like herbicide tolerance, which will have impact on reducing, labors and make this pulses cultivation easy. So these are some of my thoughts, and I'm very optimistic, that we will continue to make progress. India has a huge potential. We still see, yield gaps, and there are opportunities for technological advancement and adoptions. And I'm sure that with all these things, we will be able to increase the production and sustain the production. With that, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gaur, making very good points. You rightly said that farmers' view is very important, because when farmer decides to grow a particular crop, he looks into the profitability, risk involved, the ease of cultivation, marketing, policy support, and so on. So, because he's very clever, he wants profit. And therefore, his viewpoints must be taken into consideration. And rightly said that we have achieved progress by combining technologies and policies, an ideal combination, and probably for getting, making the country self-sufficient in pulse production, I think a mantra of combination of technologies and policy has to continue. And these are the very good points that you mentioned, and thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Gaur. Now we move on to next speaker, Dr. Varshney. Dr. Varshney, somehow I missed his brief CV, but I would like to introduce him. Everybody knows him. He's holding a very senior position in ICRISAT, where he's trying to make use of how omics can help in improvement of legumes. And he has a very large number of publications. He's a fellow of many academies. He's a fellow of the National Academy of Sciences. He's a fellow of the Indian National Science Academy. And he has been getting a lot of awards from national and international organizations. So with this brief background, I would request Rajiv Varshney to put forth his points. Dr. Rajiv Varshney.
Thank you very much, sir, for very kind introduction. And good afternoon, everybody. Let me thank first Dr. NP Singh, Director IIPR and co-patron ISPRD, Dr. IP Singh, President ISPRD, and Dr. Aditya Pratap, Secretary ISPRD and the Executive Council of ISPRD for organizing this brainstorming on very topical subject. And also thanks to them for inviting me to be the part of this panel. It's great to see Dr. S.K. Sharma, Germplasm Research Doyen, being the coordinator for this session. And I'm also very happy to see all eminent panelists, including DDG Research, Dr. K.K. Sharma from ICRISAT, ADG ICR, Dr. S.K. Jha, and many eminent scientists, including Dr. Ashutosh Sarkar, Dr. Shiv Kumar from ICARDA, Dr. Masood Ali, former director, Dr. B.V. Singh, former ADG, Dr. Puran Gaur, who gave very nice contribution just now, Dr. Om Gupta, madam. And I know that there are many eminent pulses researchers, including ACRIP coordinators, heads of the different departments, and senior colleagues from IIPR like Dr. G.P. Dikshit, Dr. Sanjeev Gupta, Dr. Shiv Shevak, Dr. Faninder Singh, Dr. Prahaj, and also Dr. Sabjit Singh from PAU, and many other scientists and friends and colleagues from IIPR and all other collaborating institutes are participating. So I'm very excited to be the part of this session. So my greetings and best wishes to all of you on this important day, Teachers' Day, and also many, many congratulations to IIPR and Pulse Fraternity on the Foundation Day of IIPR. So we are really having the great brainstorming session. And I think a lot has already been said by previous panelists. So this is always good when you are in the last numbers on that speaking, then you don't have much to say. So because majority of those good things have already been said. Having said that, I still would like to re-emphasize on several points. And why? Because then when I will re-emphasize, they probably will underline the importance of these different topics or areas. So I do not need to go in the detail because we all know that pulses are very important. They are called as poor person's meat. But in recent years, this was really difficult sometimes to even have the affordability of these pulses. Nevertheless, they play a key role in food and nutritional security. Despite their importance and the rate of productivity, this rate of productivity gains has remained limited in many pulse crops. And in this regard, Dr. Masood Ali, Dr. B.V. Singh already outlined some of those areas. Having said that, the last few years have registered a quantum leap in pulses production in India. And I think with the year 2017-18 witnessed the highest ever pulses production of about 25.4 million tons. And credit for this goes to the leadership of Indian Institute of Pulses Research and ICR, of course. And as mentioned in the morning by Director General of ICR, Dr. Mohapatra, it happened under the directorship of Dr. N.P. Singh, and we all call him Dalhan Kranti Janak. So Dr. N.P. Singh, sir, बहुत बहुत बधाइयाँ फिर से आपके लिए. Anyway, coming back to this point, though we know and we had discussed today the issues that why this did not happen, but let's talk on the positive side. The productivity of pulses in India has increased by 58% from 534 kilogram per hectare in 1967 to 68 to now 847 kilogram per hectare in 2018 to 19. So again, as mentioned by other senior colleagues, thanks to innovations, technological adoption combined with the policy support, again mentioned by Dr. Mohapatra, Dr. N.P. Singh, Dr. Gaur, Dr. Sharma, all of these colleagues, they have already highlighted this thing. Now, as Dr. N.P. Singh mentioned in morning and Aditya also told that now, for instance, if you go in terms of the pulses requirement in the country, and if we plan a charter for the 2050, we need to have 39 million ton pulses. This necessitates an annual growth rate of about 2.2%. Now, for achieving this demand, for ever-growing population, we need to work on the different fronts. This includes enhancing crop productivity, production area, and also having favorable policies. And our DDGR, Dr. Sharma already mentioned, and he called this approach multi-pronged approach. So in this regard, when you talk about increasing area, we all know that we have limited area in the country, right? So if we increase the pulses area for one side or so, then we need to decrease area for some other crops. Though we know that we still have some areas, few million hectares under rice fallows. But you know that Dr. N.P. Singh mentioned in his presentation that if we are talking about this increasing the area, we need to think about this commensuration with the prices, and then only this is doable. So now the other important area where we can do as a scientific community, we can work, and that's probably the vertical enhancement. I was also happy to note when Dr. N.P. Singh mentioned, because many times when you are sitting in international platform, they say, hey, in developing countries, varietal replacement rate is very low. But now in the pulses, through the seed hubs and other policy issues support, we reach to this number up to 35%. This is fantastic. Now, when you are having this higher varietal replacement rate, this also demands that we should have new and more high productivity, high yielding, climate resilient varieties in our kitties. And if we don't have, then after a few years, we will be having the same situation. So we don't want to see that one. So in this regard, in my opinion, the pulses breeding programs need to have more precision and efficiency. We need to have the integration of modern approaches, including genetic engineering, gene editing, pre-breeding, genomics, etc. Dr. Kiran Sharma highlighted role of biotechnology. Dr. S.K. Sharma already highlighted the role of the pre-breeding. And I know that in terms of genetic engineering, Dr. N.P. Singh, Dr. Vidhu Sharma, and even from ICRISAT, Dr. Kiran Sharma and Pooja Bhatnagar, they have really contributed a lot in this area of BT biotechnology. So what I'm going to do now in next few minutes, I will be highlighting some other areas, and this is more on the genomics aspect. Why? Because even in morning, Dr. Mohapatra and Dr. P.R. Sharma also highlighted these important areas in morning when they were talking during the Foundation Day ceremony of IIPR. When you would like to talk about the genomics assisted breeding, then genomic resources are of the paramount significance to impart both efficiency as well as precision in the crop breeding schemes. However, earlier, pulses were considered as the orphan crops due to the paucity of genomic resources. Nevertheless, the last decade has witnessed a remarkable success in generating unprecedented genomic resources in these crops at very fast pace. And as a result, these genomic orphans have been transformed into genomic resources rich crops now. And we have got genome sequence almost for all the pulses crop. You just name and you will have those genome sequences. In several cases, IIPR and other scientists from other Indian institute from India also, they played important role. And we from ICRISAT have been always collaborating with large number of colleagues in India and as well as in advanced research institutes and developing countries. So we have been always working as a consortium to deliver those genomic resources. So nowadays, the genomic resources is not an important issue, but the important challenge and probably requirement is to have the adoption of these tools in the breeding program. In this regard, what we need to have, that we need to have the traits associated markers. We need to have the cost-effective genotyping platforms. Now, we got several million molecular markers, including several thousands on high throughput genotyping platforms. So now we need to have the people to use them. And you can use these tools for understanding the genetics of any trait. You just say biotic stress, abiotic stress, nutrition, anything. You need to have the variation in your germ plan and you can use these tools. Nowadays, we have the new sequencing based trait mapping approaches as well. We have optimized them at ICRISAT. If you have a population, if you have a phenotypic variation, we can map any trait in just 2-3 months time. So basically, and many institute in India, again, thanks to IIPR, IARI, and many other state agriculture university, we are also working with them and we are mapping several those traits. Furthermore, now we need to harness the genetic variations. And then what we are doing, NBPGR, NIPGR, ICRISAT, IIPR, many state agriculture university in recent years, we have been sequencing the germ plant collections and we are cataloging these sequence variations now. And not only this one, many breeders like Dr. Gaur has developed a magic population in chickpea. Similarly, we have the NAM population, magic population, many crops. So you can also create the novel genetic variation. You can create the mutant populations. And these can also be harnessed for the pulses improvement. Now, you can do this thing, but as I said, that efficient integration of the modern genomic tools and technologies in pulses breeding, this is really required. And good news is that during last few years, this kind of work has facilitated delivery of molecular breeding products in these crops in recent years. And I say always, and this is a little bit bragging, but the thing is, when Canada and Australia, they are the leader in this research and pulses, etc., they are exporting these things. Although they were the pioneer in integration of markers and breeding in wheat, soybean, etc. But in terms of the pulses, India has taken the lead. And last year, by introgressing the genomic regions identified in pulses like chickpea, and that they were introgressed in the different genetic backgrounds, India released 2 varieties. One was Pusa chickpea 10216, enhanced tolerance to drought by IARI, and Super Annigiri with enhanced resistance to Fujiram wilt by University of Agriculture Sciences, Raichur. So India has delivered first set of the molecular breeding products for the drought as well as Fujiram wilt. Thanks to Dr. Bhardwaj, Dr. Mannoor and Lakshman, and of course, leadership of Dr. N.P. Singh and Dr. G.P. Dixit from IIPR through ACREP or IIPR perspective, that they really supported all these things. Similarly, several other improved molecular breeding lines from IIPR, IARI, and US Raichur in different genetic backgrounds, they already are being evaluated. And last time when we were discussing in ACREP chickpea meeting, I was happy to see that some of these lines have been promoted to the next level. So these are really success stories of the genomics integration in the breeding program. And not only in chickpea, even in the case of pigeon pea now, molecular breeding products are being developed for resistance to Fujiram wilt, sterility mosaic in pigeon pea. This may take a few years, but nevertheless, efforts are underway. Again, thanks to the leadership of Dr. N.P. Singh and Dr. I.P. Singh, ACREP coordinator, in addition to colleagues from ICRISAT, US Raichur, and other state agriculture university. So now we have already seen that you can demonstrate, you can integrate these things, and you can develop the varieties in the faster manner. So in the context of climate change scenarios, for achieving sustainable pulses production through tailoring of the climate resilient pulses, integration of genomics, phenotyping, system modeling, and agronomy is very essential. In fact, together with several colleagues, we also suggested 5G breeding approach. And 5G means the first G is genome, second is germplasm characterization, third is genes, fourth is the genomic breeding, and fifth is the gene editing. And I think these are the approaches now of today and tomorrow that we need to integrate all these things together. And this kind of approach is much needed for the pulses improvement. Other thing, the new approach we are promoting now, and we already have gotten some exciting results, and this is called haplotype based breeding. So those days were gone that you were talking about one marker or one genetic variation, etc. Now through sequencing of large germplasm collections, we can identify the haplotypes, and we are moving in the area of haplotype based breeding. This is a promising approach to obtain designer pulses crops. In the last, I would like to mention other two important areas. This is one is genomic selection, another is speed breeding or rapid generation turnover. And there are already some studies on genomic selection in pulses like chickpea from ICRISAT, IRI, and IIPR, and in pea by INRA, and they already have demonstrated promising results. Similarly, speed breeding protocols where you can reduce the generation, basically 3 to 4 generation in just 1 year. And these kind of approaches are being optimized to reduce generation time in several pulses crop, including chickpea. My colleague Pooja and Srinivasan, they are working in this area. Similar kind of efforts have been made in other pulses crops as well, like pea or so. So I think that in summary, we need to continue to intensify our efforts to enhance crop productivity. We need to target climate resilience traits, nutrition traits, and once we have improved varieties, we need to have the better agronomy also. Unless we have a good agronomy, we cannot realize the full potential of the genetics. So this is also very important. And similarly, we need to connect smallholder farmers to the market. So in the case, even farmers, they get the higher produce, but they, on that particular year, you are having the reduction in the market price, then they do not get profit. So basically, we need to connect smallholder farmers to market so that we can contribute to enhance farmers' income. We need to work in the area of value addition, and this private partnership or those kind of areas were also highlighted by Dr. Kiran Sharma. And on top of that, we need to have the favorable policies from the government so that we can have the required amount of pulses in the country, and not only the pulse amount availability, rather, I would say under the affordable limit of the general public, so that, as we used to call it earlier, poor person's meat. So that my point is that this is in reach of the general public so that they can secure much required protein in their diets. And we should also have pulses production as a profitable business for smallholder farmers. In summary, I see a bright future in this direction. And I think that such kind of brainstorming session, what we are having today, by bringing the experts from the national and international organizations, state agriculture universities, policymakers, also, they are going to play a very important role. Thank you very much, Chairman, sir. And I'm really very excited and happy to be the part of the session. Thanks once again, Dr. NP Singh, Dr. IP Singh, and Dr. Aditya for inviting me to this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rajiv Vashne, for highlighting the points. You rightly said that the integration of modern tools and our conventional breeding has to get integrated. And as you said, that genomic sequences are available in all the crops, and a huge amount of genomic resources have been have been developed, but their utilization is also very important. The high throughput genotyping and phenotyping is a very important area, and these genomic tools help to the breeders for the development of designer crops. And you all mentioned that the development of magic populations, then the haplotype-based breeding, and lastly, you said the genomic selection is going to be very important, the speed breeding for the rapid turnover of the generations of the breeding material. And these are the modern tools, and there is no denying the fact that these tools are very important, because they bring more precision in breeding. And therefore, they need to be combined with our own conventional breeding approaches that we follow. I think the combination of these is going to be very rewarding. So thank you very much, Dr. Rajiv Varshne. Thank you so much. Then I move on to the next panelist, Dr. Shivkumar Kauda. He's based in Morocco. And he leads the ICADA's food legume program, which aims to deliver improved germplasm of lentil, kaoli chickpea, fava bean, and grass pea to the national partners in South Asia, Sub-Saharan Africa, West Asia, and North Africa. He works on developing short-duration, climate-smart varieties of lentil and grass pea with high iron and zinc content. During his 3-decade career, he has worked with the national and international partners to develop 39 lentil varieties, 5 mung bean, 2 bean, 1 rice bean, and 3 grass pea varieties. He has published 170 peer-reviewed journal articles, 68 books, chapters, 9 books, 7 technical bulletins, and 2 training manuals. And he has also supervised the postgraduate students. And now I request Dr. Shivkumar to highlight his key points. Dr. Shivkumar, please.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma, for your nice introduction. And I'm also thankful to the organizers, Dr. N.P. Sharma, I.P. Singh, and Aditya for inviting me for this panel discussion. I see it is very timely, Why it is very timely that when you see the global food supply is under threat in many places. And that it happens mainly because if you see the pulses were the first which were out of the cell from big stores. The reason was that they were the source of protein. And then people wanted to ensure that during the lockdown that the protein source is available even if this lockdown goes forward. And that has happened for the developed countries and developing country as such. And in many of the countries, they could not get this pulses just because this global food supply was broken. So it is there. So now, so I can say that we have to now develop more highly varieties, not pulses, not only for protein, but also as a source of micronutrients and prebiotics. They are very, very important for keeping a healthy life, and then to provide the immunity to deal with this, new challenges being posed by the epidemics or pandemics of, coronavirus. So, as you know, that India is the largest, producer of pulses and consumer also. At the same time, it is having the largest, production base, 25 million hectares. When we are talking about 25 million hectares, it means even if we make a small, improvement in productivity, let us say 100 kg or 1 quintal, then we are adding almost 2.5 million tons, and that is not a very big challenge. Why I say it is not a very big challenge? Because a country like, Ethiopia, where the national average of chickpea is around 2 tons per hectare, lentil 1.8 ton per hectare. Why we cannot achieve that? So I do not see that it is a very difficult task. We can really achieve it. The only thing we require is to have a clear-cut research roadmap. And as Raju mentioned, 5G approach. I say 3D approach. 3D approach being a builder. So I say 3D approach means discover, develop, and deploy. And then you have to do these 3 things very rapidly and then efficiently. When I say discover, I'm talking about the new traits, like as Dr. Masood Ali mentioned, that still we are struggling to find out sources of resistance for some traits like Helicobacter pulmoris. So there are, and then color root rot, and then dried root rot. So these are some of the traits for which we still do not have a answer in our cultivated gene pool. Dr. Sharma in the beginning was saying that, yes, we have to look for our crop wide relatives, and they can be a wonderful source of those alleles which are left over, somewhere they remain in that, and because of the domestication and breeding, we could not integrate them into our cultivated gene pool. So there's a scope to discover new traits. Then these new traits has to be incorporated into our new varieties. So we have to develop new varieties, which are earlier, if you see that, last, as Dr. Ali was mentioning, that still some of the states like UP, and then Bihar, you do not have much of the improved varieties. And I can see that, because if I see the variety being released, let us say, variety developed by Pantnagar is being released for central India. It means somewhere the breeding program was not targeted. It was just because you have developed and then you have tested and then you find that this variety is doing very good in Central Asia and you have released it. Otherwise, had it been the target breeding programs, then the Pantnagar, university would have, because they would have developed varieties for UP and Bihar, because they have the target population environment. So somewhere we have to have a very targeted breeding programs, and then we have to incorporate all those techniques which has been mentioned by my previous speakers, like Raju is saying that we have to include speed breeding, we have to have markers as selections. So these are some of the tools which can really strengthen the hand of the breeders to come out with a very efficient and speedily varieties. Then deploy those varieties. So for that, you need to have a very efficient seed system so that the farmers can get the benefit of those varieties in the field. So for that, I always believe that seed is the vehicle to see that that the genetic potential is realized in the farmer's field, and that can be realized only with the good agronomy practices. Sometimes we have so many good agronomic practices, and they can give up to 30% yield advantage. But the farmers, they are mostly smallholder farmers. They are not able to afford those things. So how we can strengthen the hand of smallholder farmers? So these are some of the things which I would like to emphasize. And if you see that when I talk about legumes, then we can say that they cannot compete with cereals. They can complement cereals. So how can we do that? We can do that by developing short duration varieties. And I can tell you that with my experience, even with the short duration varieties, there's no yield penalty. Sometimes I could see that there is a better yield because you have matched the crop duration with the availability of the resources. So as a result, you are able to harvest much more. And that is apparent when you see the yield harvest in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, and the yield which you harvest in North Indian states. So there's a interstate, kind of yield gaps that we have to fill it. And earlier I always used to say that early and photothermal insensitive. Now I see that you have to look for this early but weakly photothermal sensitive varieties, so that you can take the advantage of some kind of favorable environments which can occur during this during the varieties crop duration. So I now suggest that go for this weakly photothermal sensitive variety instead of having only insensitive. And at the same times, we have to also think in terms of this underutilized crop like Lathyrus. I can tell you Lathyrus, it is one crop which is having high homoarginine. That is good for health. Now it is recognized as a functional food in developed countries. So we have to emphasize these small, underutilized crop, and then they can really, help in diversifying agri-food systems, and then that it is much high, protein in this particular crop. And at the same time, we have to also make sure that the lentils become, or not lentil, I should say, for all legumes, that this should be commercially viable approach. And Dr. Puran rightly mentioned that what we have to do is to bring stability. No farmers would like to take a variety when he is not sure of harvesting the yield which we are promising, that you will harvest 2 tons. And then one year he can harvest 2 tons. Next year he harvests, nothing. So we have to ensure that this stability is, inbuilt in our varieties, so that the farmers are assured that they will be able to harvest. And for that, we have to come out with a variety specific agronomic package. And that is what is happening in most of the developed countries. When they release a variety, they say this is the agronomy. And when you have this agronomy, then you will harvest this particular amount of yield. So that is what we have to go for the next, and with this, I can say that we also think in terms of soil health. I think in this, with this green revolution, somewhere we have compromised with the soil health. And I think when we incorporate legumes in the system, they will help in that. And once we have a very solid, soil health, then achieving or doubling this, yield what we are harvesting today should not be a big challenge. With these few things, I will say that we are in a good position because India has made a good progress. Adding 10 million tons in a decade is not a small task, and it means we are going the right direction, and we are targeting only 5 more million tons by 2030. We need not to think of 2050. There will be many technologies, I tell you, and then everything will change. So with this, short target of 30 million tons by 2030, I think we are in a very solid, ground where we will make progress. And then I will say that very good, point has come out from the previous speakers. And if we really put them together as a kind of, recommendation, I'm sure that, it will be very useful for the policymakers to design the new roadmap for realizing 30 million. Thank you very much, Dr. Sharma, for providing me this opportunity. And I can, my friends and my, guide, and then those who have, so I'm very happy to see all of them. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shivkumar, making really very good points. You rightly said that we need to discover genes, desirable genes, and then, and then deploying them. As I said in the beginning, that many desirable genes have been lost during evolutionary process, during domestication. Then, and I feel that many desirable genes, Central Asia is the origin for rice, gram, lentil, lathyrus, and so on. So probably the center of origin is the area where you have have a maximum number of genes. You rightly said that the genetic potential is only realized if there is a favorable environment. So in addition to the improved varieties, the agronomic practices, the agronomy is also, the crop management is very important. And a very good point has been made that the short duration varieties may not have yield penalty, which normally people think that short duration varieties may have some yield penalty. And definitely the photothermal insensitivity is very important. If a wheat revolution has come, after, besides dwarfness, the material has a lot of photo and thermal sensitivity that leads to wider adaptation. And one point that you made is the underutilized crops like lathyrus, they need further exploitation. And finally, bringing stability in productivity and profitability is a key issue. Then only the farmers would be adopting the pulses. Thank you very much, Dr. Shivkumar. Now we move on to the perhaps the last presentation by Dr. Om Gupta from JNKVV Jabalpur. Dr. Om Gupta served on various posts for the last 37 years, selected as the First Lady Dean in 2014, and then in 2018 as the first Director Extension Services in the history of JNKVV. She has worked extensively on disease of pulses, especially in chickpea, earned name and fame and honor. And she was nominated as a principal investigator crop production of Acripon chickpea at the national level. Honored with many prestigious awards like ICPRD Recognition Award in 2003, Lifetime Achievement Award in Plant Pathology by the Society, and Harit Ratna Award So she has won large number of awards, and also the IPS Best Women Scientist Award in 2019 by the Indian Phytopathological Society. And in January 2020, and ISPRD Excellence Award by the Indian Society of Pulses and Settlement at the international conference that was held at Bhopal during February 2020. So with this background, I would request Om Gupta to make her points. Dr. Om Gupta, please.
Yes, sir. Thanks for introducing me. And thanks to ISPRD, IAPR Kanpur for organizing this one-day brainstorming webinar on the occasion of the Foundation Day of IAPR. Honorable ADG, Oilseed and Pulses, Director IAPR Kanpur, and all the panelists, eminent scientists from the national and international organizations, ladies and gentlemen. It is needless to say that Madhya Pradesh ranked first both in terms of area as well as the production. And two major issues have been emerged in respect to pulse production in the country. First, the limited genetic potential for high yields, and the second, their vulnerability to pests and diseases. So to meet out the challenges faced by the pulse sector, government has given emphasis on the research efforts for developing biotic stress resistant and stress tolerant varieties, which is to be encouraged along with the private public initiative and better logistics planning and handling of the pulses. So the crop cycle should be such so as to fit into overall cropping system that the farmers takes during the year. As you know, sir, that due to high protein content in pulses, the crop is highly susceptible to pests and diseases, and which is estimated around 30% of the pulse crop, which is lost every year. So looking to this, I have some point that conditioned soils are more prone to soil-borne pathogens as compared to suppressive soils because they harbor unique bacterial communities and higher number of filamentous fungi. Apart from microbial population, physical and chemical properties of the soil also contribute to have some plan. So my urge to soil scientists and microbiologists to have some plan for work to convert conducive soils to suppressive soils to overcome the soil-borne pathogens. On the other hand, the research efforts need to prioritize by employing modern biotechnological tools for crops, for developing pest-resistant varieties of pulses, and this IPM and IDM package for various crops should be restructured because some of the widely used insecticide or pesticides, they are banned and many new molecules are also available in the market. Wheat is one of the menace which hamper the yield both in the Kharif and Rabi pulses. And we have number of weedicides which are applicable as a pre-emergence weedicide, but we don't have any post-emergence weedicide. So in this direction, we also need work. Secondly, the soil health is deteriorating due to the use of continuous inorganic fertilizers. So there is need to establish biocontrol laboratories for the production of biocontrol agents as well as the biofertilizers. And on the other hand, the popularization among farmers to meet out the challenges of healthy and safe environment as well as to maintain the soil health. Then demonstration and awareness among farmers for use of biofertilizers, which is coupled with inorganic, maybe in the ratio of 1:3, that is 25:75, as per the soil health record, would be a great contribution to enrich the soil in leading minimizing the cost. And then validation and popularization of available indigenous technology knowledge, which is available in the villages and it is not written anywhere for the crop management, whether it is insect or disease or storage. It has to be focused. IPM strategies developed and promoted by the government is now based on the use of plant extract And if an effort is made towards the production of ITK that is based on product on cottage scale, it can be an economical viable option for sustainable development of eco-friendly pesticides and insecticides. So as you know that seed replacement rate in pulses is quite low as compared to cereals, and establishment of seed bank at village level or a small group of the farmers for seed production at village level to increase seed replacement rate would be much beneficial. Then location is specific seed production program. That is, for example, black gram is cultivated in Madhya Pradesh in more than 18 lakh hectare area. But the availability of the seed production is very less. Similarly, similar position also exists in case of field pea as well as pigeon. So the seed hub program was started in 2016 by ICAR IAPR. And a system is to be developed for a very good coordination between the seed hub of SUs or ICR institutes and State Department of Agriculture for seed lifting and timely distribution of the farmers. Because the seed is not available to the farmers, so it hampers their production or the yield. Then if we talk of the nutrition sensitive agriculture, there are varieties in case of lentil which are biofortified with zinc or iron are available, and they have to be popularized and promoted among farmers also. So it should be worked out with the midday meal in collaboration with the WCD or NRLM or NGOs or SHGs or some other organization. So it is to be also prioritized, and to meet the benefit to the farmers, a separate MSP should be fixed. If we talk of one district, one commodity, which is now our Prime Minister also focusing, and establishment of the storage facilities and small processing units of the pulses at village level for smooth functioning would be beneficial to the farming community. So no doubt our Krishi Vigyan Kendras, which are spread all over the country, whether it is in SEUs or ICR institutes or it is in NGOs, they are working very hard in promotion of the technology by way of demonstrating in CFLD or OFT, or by conducting large number of the trainings on different aspects, and by sending the advisories through KMS or print media or through WhatsApp or different groups. They are doing hard for exploitation of all the transferable technology. So my submission is that they also need support in way of so that they can have the seed of the varieties which are less than 10 years, and they can be cultivated and they can be recommended for the state also. So in nutshell, I have these points in my mind which I would like to elaborate about you all. So thanking for you for giving me this opportunity to say a few words. Thanks to one all.
Thank you very much, Dr. Om Gupta. You rightly pointed out that the development of insect pest resistant varieties, post-emergence weedicides, soil health is very important, because continuous use of inorganic fertilizers is degrading the soil health, and therefore you suggested the combination of biofertilizers or organic manures along with the inorganic fertilizers. And a very important point that you made is the validation and upscaling of the indigenous traditional knowledge of the farmers. And you also mentioned that the location-specific seed production activities, the regions, the districts where these pulses are grown, perhaps the seed production activities should also be nearby, with the coordination of the Department of Agriculture of the state government, SAUs, ICR institution. They are all involved in the seed production activities, and therefore their coordination is very important. And lastly, you mentioned that the post-harvest losses, if we can reduce them, that would be better for the farmers. So thank you very much, Dr. Om Gupta. Now we move on to the next presentation of Dr. Bidyut Sharma. Dr. Vidyut Sharma is the director of Biotechnology Center at the Assam Agriculture University, Jorhat. And around 3 years back, I was there for some work, and it was very nice to see his department, a very big building, lot of resources, and very good manpower I could see, and doing excellent work there under the leadership of Dr. Vidyut Sharma. So now I would request Dr. Vidyut Sharma to make his points. Dr. Vidyut Sharma, please.
Thank you so much, sir, and for mentioning about your visit to our center. I remember, and then your comment also at that time. But unfortunately, I was not asked before that I have to make a presentation, or I have to make my comments, formally. I thought I will have a discussion. I'll take part in discussion, So I'm sorry, I don't have a very formal presentation now, but whatever, right from the beginning, different speakers have been speaking about the enhancing the pulse production, various, ways that we have to go ahead for enhancing the pulse production in the country, that I have been listening, of course, very carefully. And I'm very happy that, but we are, of course, moving quite, aggressively in the last few decades, and we have been able to enhance the pulse production. But of course, as many of the speakers, they have mentioned that we have to achieve the target of say by 2030, say we have to enhance much more whatever we have today in our hands. So for that, definitely I would go with the other speakers that the modern technologies have to be adopted, because of course the breeders have been doing a great job in last 20-30 years, that we must appreciate their hard work, their challenges, and then for developing a numbers of beautiful varieties of pulses. But yet we do not have an insect resistant variety, especially against the pod borders. And another most important, insect or serious insect pest in pulses, or especially in chickpea or in other pulses also, that is stored grain pest, storage pest, bruchids are, major constraints in during the storage. That is why, we have to definitely adopt the modern technologies like genome engineering. While mentioning about genome engineering, I would include everything actually, whether it is, transgenics, whether cisgenics, whether genome editing, everything comes under genome engineering, because we have to engineer the genome. So that the regulations, this, we have to think about the policy decisions also. We have to have a, say, easy regulation process, so that, whatever the things in the pipeline, so that we can bring them into the field very soon. Otherwise, because many of the speakers, they have mentioned about our work, as well as ICRISAT's work on transgenic development in chickpea. And IIPR also, IIPR group, Dr. Alok Das, my student, of course, once he was my student here, and then he has also been leading a group there. And Dr. NP Singh, myself, and then we have been very often, we have been talking about Dr. Rajiv also, we have been talking about, and then, we are thinking of, incorporating biotic stresses as well as, abiotic stresses together, in one variety. And for that, of course, whatever we can develop through marker assisted breeding, it is fine, like, drought tolerance and all, then we can go ahead with marker assisted breeding. Rajiv has already have a variety, with the drought tolerance. Similarly, IIPR is also having varieties. And with these varieties, suppose if we can, introgress, BT for pod borer resistance, as well as, amylase inhibitors, alpha amylase inhibitors from common bean, that already those lines are with us. If you can develop, varieties having, molecular breeding, as well as, transgenic approach, eventually we can definitely have pulses with all biotic and abiotic stress resistance, and that will definitely enhance the pulse production in the country. So with these few words, And once again, I would like to thank you all and for giving me this opportunity. And thank you, Dr. S.K. Sharma sir, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Uh, Thank you, Dr. Bitu Sharma, for making very good points. And we all know your contribution and the work of your biotechnology center. He rightly said that the genomic engineering area is very important. The whole idea is that if we can combine the biotech and abiotic stress resistance in one variety, perhaps that will bring solution to many of the issues and the problems that we are facing today. Thank you very much, Dr. Vidut Sharma. Thank you. And now the next item on the program is that we need to have open discussion. And we have been given some 40 minutes, but I understand we are lagging behind. We are late by 1 hour. So I would request all the participants, if they have very specific points, very briefly, if they have some points, then kindly raise those issues, but very pertinent. And you can introduce yourself and then you make your point. That will be noted down. And since there will be a large number of questions, we may not be able to accommodate all questions. I will request them to email. I think there are 18 comments also on the chat. I have chat box. I have seen. I think the organizers, Aditya, who's the organizing secretary, he will take care of it also. But you can mail your points also to the organizers. So now now we are open for the open discussion. So if somebody has some issues, points, very quick points, it would be desirable. So now we are open to the discussion.
We have received some comments in the chat box as well as some private comments through the mail. But most of these comments are actually repetitive. Most of the things have been addressed by the panelists. One or two suggestions have come, like which are not there already, which are not shown already. For example, Dr. Yogesh Kumar from IITR says that earliness with heat or dot tolerance in varieties is to be very well in varieties so that this can be very well fitted in the rice fallow areas in NEPZ and also in parts of East Central Zone. Besides this, mechanical harvesting and it needs to be targeted in different crops. We need to use wild sisal species for nutritional quality improvement and other traits. Then Dr. Ashwini from Palanpur.
This is suggestion, so we can note down, no need to read response to this. Okay? Yeah.
Then one more suggestion comes from Dr. Ashwini, says that we need to promote small farmers to grow pulses in their bunds of their fields and boundaries, especially in the hills. So this is also one suggestion.
Still be again. Yeah.
And then there is one more suggestion that we need to train people to abstain from wasting food, especially food in general and especially pulses in lavish parties. So these suggestions have come, sir. Others are actually the routine suggestions, and or most of them have been covered by the panelists.
Okay, any other point? Any other point? Because we haven't given fairly a good time of 40 minutes for open discussion. Any participant, learned participant who would like to say?
Sir, there are two hand raisings. One is from Dr. B.B. Singh and another one is from Dr. S.K. Jha.
At first, Dr. S.K. Jha. Come later.
He has some point to read this side, sir. Yeah, so since Dr. Chhasar, he has to address us in the end.
Yes,
Can you?
he will be talking to us in the end.
Okay, Chairman, thank you. I have taken very less time in my previous discussion. I can have 30 seconds. Sir, most of the speakers have talked about the profitability of the pulses cultivation to the farmers. But until unless we have some lead, some technology to diversify the pulse produce, this cannot be achieved. In my opinion, sir, nowadays in the market, pure protein are being sold. It is being imported and sold in this country and all over the world. So if we increase the production of pulses beyond the threshold level, about 1 million, then price will crash. Again, the area and production will go down. This, I would suggest that extraction of pure protein from field pea and virus, if technology is developed, I think. So problem of rice fallow as well as enhancing the production can be solved at the same time. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. B.V. Singh, for your very good point and comments. Any other comment? Any other comment? Dr. Aditya, if there is none, then can we move on?
Yes, sir, I think we can move on with the next agenda.
Should we move on?
Yes, sir, we can move on to the next agenda.
Okay, then I would request Dr. S.K. Jha, who's the ADG Pulses and Oilseed at the ICL headquarters, and I would request him for his valuable remarks. Dr. Jha, please.
Jha, sir, you are not audible.
Hello.
Yes, now it is fine.
Is it okay now?
Yes, it's fine now.
Hello. Fine. Good afternoon, everybody. Professor S.K. Sarma Saab, Honorable Chairman of this brainstorming session, all eminent personalities, stalwarts of pulses assembled at one platform, and thanks to ISPRD and IIPR Kanpur both that they have made such good arrangement of learned speakers, all learned speakers, panelists, all the staff of IIPR Kanpur, SAUs, CGIR institutes, all those who have participating in this brainstorming, more than 129 at one point of time. So very good participation, and all the panelists have made a very good suggestions. Let me first wish everybody a happy Teachers' Day. All Senior Professor S.K. Sarma Sahab and all the teachers, all of you, all the senior men. And also wish to congratulate the IIPR, its director, all the staff, employees, past and present, for the success they have made in the last 28 years as an institute for their Foundation Day celebration. In the morning and in the afternoon, along with ISPRD, IIPR is celebrating this very timely brainstorming. I have been to ICAR headquarters when this all program started. In 2016,
when the prices of pulses go on too high, government planned to have some kind of interventions. And in 2016, that program was launched. At that time, a target was fixed for production target for pulses in 2016-17. I was also party to that meeting with DAC, and they had targeted only 20 million ton for 2016-17. But we had achieved 23 plus million ton in very first year of all that policies and technology coming together and making a kind of pulses revolution. Honorable DG Morning said that it is almost stabilized for last 3-4 years. It is more than 23 plus million ton. But now challenge is different. And for that we have been here and we received very good suggestions how we should make a move. The programs for next 5 years, recently we have discussed SFC program. Before that, AGMs of pulses were held. There also the programs were discussed. But today's brainstorming session is how to maintain this production of 23 plus million ton and enhance it, as Dr. N.P. Singh had mentioned in the morning and even during his presentation today in the afternoon, that we should enhance 1 million ton annually. And Dr. Shiv Kumar mentioned that if we enhance by 1 quintal per hectare productivity, and with almost 25 million hectare area, we can very much enhance 2.5 million tons annually. And during this revolution, we found that almost 175 kg yield has increased. So technology will always be important and contribution of technology will always be there, but simultaneously policies are there, policies role are there, and they have played a good role in enhancing the domestic production of pulses. Now we have to maintain it, and already many good suggestions, particularly for crop improvement program have been given. In the morning, he said that we could not capitalize on the genomics assisted breeding as much as we could have done it. And now we have just listened Dr. Rajiv Varshney, and he has some action point, and we need to translate those things so that we can exploit the genomics assisted breeding for. And Honorable Chairman, you had very rightly said that what we want genetic enhancement for yield that along with resistance and tolerance to diseases and pests, abiotic stresses, and some special characters. So these things are already noted. Now we have to make some action plan roadmap so that we can enhance the production as well as maintain whatever we have achieved. As Dr. Masood Ali Saab pointed out, why in the rice fallow areas of Bihar and UP, chickpea and lentil entries are not coming up. Why varieties are coming up after 20 years. All these gaps need to be looked into. Wherever there are gaps. At one place, we want to enhance our production in rice fallow areas, but on the other hand, we don't have varieties. We don't have technology. So all these things are very important where we are lagging, and that kind of introspection is there. And as Dr. Saxena in his read out presentation, Dr. Aditya read out, what he said that all that policies and technologies that have brought this revolution needs to be continued. And yes, as Dr. Om Gupta said, some kind of support or some kind of modifications in that action plan may be possible, but otherwise more or less those things, those policy supports, those technology support, technological interventions need to be followed, and rather rejuvenated, rather need to be strengthened. And research on its part, as suggested by learned panelists, all those things, whether it is a post-emergence herbicide-tolerant varieties, what Dr. Sarkar was mentioning. Someone said lowering cost of cultivations and increasing the income of the farmer. That is most important. Unless we enhance the profitability of pulses, it is not going to beat its competitive cost. Dr. N.P. Singh's one suggestion for lifting ban on storage and marketing of Lethyrus and having an MSP for it too will help in popularizing this pulse variety, pulse crop in rice fallow areas. So all these microbial, Dr. B.B. Singh had very rightly said that if we don't have that genetic solutions and microbial consortia for management of pest and disease, why we are not taking it up seriously? So we have identified, shortlisted all the issues, minor pulses, promotion of minor pulses. Yes, many poor farmers, poor people cannot afford to purchase that costly 4 or 5 pulses that we are promoting. So we have to give in due course of time. Of course, we have a plan for 5 years and 10 years. So these pulses can come. And Dr. Sarkar also very rightly said that we should not think of only self-sufficiency. We should think of exporting it. We should become exporter of pulses, because right from importing nation, we have come to a stage of self-sufficiency. And then we are targeting only self-sufficiency. No, we should target for becoming exporter. He has given some good example of a small seeded lentil for Bangladesh and kabli for Middle East and all that. We have to explore from vocal for local. That kind of approach we need. And today, very rightly, we have assembled because IIPR Kanpur has made us proud before the country. Everywhere now people are talking about pulses and our level of self-sufficiency. And we are really feeling very happy and proud that our institute IIPR has led this, has actively participated in its government's program, and it is only custodian of our technology for the farmers, developer, supplier, technology of pulses. So all these things are important, and today they have very rightly called this meeting. And Honorable Chairman, sir, I am very happy to be part of it, and your moderation of the things and the presentation of every panelists were excellent, and I really enriched with it. And definitely we will come out with some good action plan and roadmap after compiling all the information. And Dr. N.P. Singh and his team will, and ISPRD, of course, Dr. I.P. Singh and Organizing Secretary Aditya, they all will be making a good document. They will send it to the council so that we could pursue it. And we can definitely, we are hopeful, we will have a good roadmap, action plan and projects. All these decisions which are now being taken, that needs to be translated into the action plan of different schemes. Unless that is done, there won't be any desirable result. So with this, I again congratulate everyone on this Teachers' Day, and all the IIPR people for the Foundation Day and holding this program with ISPR. And it has been a really wonderful experience for me personally, and definitely going into the right direction. With this, thank you everyone. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jha, for your very valuable remarks. And the next item on the agenda is that I need to make some concluding remarks, though I've been talking after each discussion of the panelists, but still, as desired, as a concluding remarks, I will make few points. You see, one of the points which Dr. Masood Ali made is very important, that the area of some pulses in UP and Bihar has come down. We need to analyze what are the reasons behind. Normally, these two states in the beginning, in the past, were having good area, but now it has come down. And he also mentioned that by the State Agriculture University, not a single variety of pigeon pea, as he mentioned, not a single variety of chickpea, if I remember correctly, has been evolved or got released at the state level. I think that though they have a very strong AICRP centers, there are 3 agriculture universities, then the 4th being BHU. I think we have to look into it. ICAR system has to develop varieties, but the state agriculture universities has also to make efforts. It is the efforts of both partners that's very important. And if we have to increase the area, probably we need to target the rice fallow areas. We have not been able to target, and area expansion is only from the rice fallows. The another point that came up is the use of microbial consortia, unlike soybean, unlike groundnut, where it is very extensively utilized by the farmers. So this area is also required to be strengthened. And the another is that our other efforts have to be also on the minor pulses also. They are not to be ignored. They are very important, like moat wheat, rice wheat, rajmash, the thyris. These minor pulses, they are also consumed by people. And we need to give attention to them also, because their yield levels are also poor. In the past, many efforts were not made for their genetic improvement. And rightly said, the DG also in the morning, as Dr. Gaur was telling, that it is perhaps the combination of technologies and the government policies probably that can make a change. In addition to the conventional breeding, which we are following, the new technologies of biotechnology, genomics, transgenics, they are very important areas. The genome sequences of almost all legumes are known, and we have generated enormous genomic resources. But I think a time has come when we have to put them to use. And these are the very important. And our own breeding, conventional breeding, what we call it, and these modern tools, these modern tools are to get integrated with the breeding approaches, and therefore our breeders or the students of plant breeding should have adequate knowledge of these molecular techniques. That's very important, because if our breeders have a very strong background in breeding as well as in these molecular tools, probably a single person or a people or a group of people can work together. The another point that came up is that, as I also said in the beginning, that many of genes during the evolutionary process, they have been lost. And therefore there is a need to discover them, to find out. And centers of origin and the wild relatives are the appropriate places where those genes are supposed to be existing. And they need to be discovered, and they need to be deployed also. That's very important. Another important point, which Vidut Sharma mentioned about the genome engineering. These are the tools which are going to be very important. And the seed production is another very important activity. There has to be a synergy, a coordination between the different agencies who are working in the seed sector, like State Agriculture University, Department of Agriculture, the ICR institutions, the KVK. There has to be convergence. There has to be a sort of a synergy among these institutions. And we must find out as to what are the districts, what are the regions, what are the areas where particular pulses are grown. If probably the seed production is taken up in the nearby, so probably the availability of the seeds would be much better. And lastly, I think we need to, as Dr. Jha said, that we need to make an action plan or a roadmap, how we can sustain the productivity of the pulses that we have achieved. And we are also able to meet our requirement, demand, domestic demand, so that we do not have to think of the import of pulses, so that we are self-sufficient and we are able to really save our foreign exchange. So these were the few points that I thought to make in the end. And I'm sure the minutes have been recorded, the details have been recorded by Aditya, and shortly some proceedings would be coming. And I think if the proceedings are in the form of actions, a roadmap and actions, and where the actions are to be taken, at what level, I think I have seen there the minutes of the proceedings of the meeting in the academy, which was held in 2016, which was referred by Dr. N.P. Singh also in the beginning. They have made very good points, that what is the issue, what has to be the strategy, and what are to be the action points, and who are the nodal agencies in the ministry or in the ICR or in the SAU or in the state governments who would be addressing that issue. I think such type of mechanism, if it's developed, that makes the job easier for the implementing agency. Then people come to know in council, in IIPR, SAUs, or state governments, or in the line departments, that what their role is. So I hope the proceedings would be available, and hopefully they would be circulated, and that would make a base for the next 4, 5, 6 years, probably up to 2025. And we are able to meet the stipulated targets of say 29 quintal or something like that by that time. So thank you very much. I must thank in the end all the panelists. They have taken pains to make presentations, and they have given a very good input. They have given excellent input. All the panelists. Unfortunately, we couldn't listen to Dr. Salimat, and because of some issue of probably bandwidth, and also Dr. Nadarajan, he's not keeping good health, I was told. But nonetheless, we got excellent inputs from all the panelists, and I would like to thank them sincerely. I must thank also the director, the president of this society, the ISPRD, and all the coordinators, heads of the division, all the scientists really for making good contribution and taking this initiative. Initiative cannot be taken alone by the society, but it is the institution's efforts. And in the end, I must thank Dr. Jha also, because you are representing the council. For us, you are representing the DDG, you are representing the DG also. And you are the one who provides support to the institution. I know, being in NBPGR, I know the role of the ADG, very important role, because he's a sort of a person who protects, guides the institution. Yeah. So thank you very much, Dr. Jha, also for your valuable suggestions and the comments. And in the end, I must thank all the participants. We were having 140 participants, but now there are 83. It shows their interest, and many are probably on the YouTube also. Their interest also. and I hope they have also been benefited. And I would request all the participants, because in a virtual discussion like this, people cannot speak the way we used to meet in meetings, where we used to have chat discussion during lunch time, but we can't meet like this. And there cannot be much exchange of ideas and knowledge. Therefore, I request all the participants to put up their views, in the form of email. There were some in the chat box, some comments were there, but we would appreciate to Dr. Aditya. I hope he will take care of them, and your comments would be very valuable and very educating to us. So thank you very much. Must thank everybody for giving me an opportunity, to interact with you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma. Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Preparing the proceedings and circulating them very shortly. And we also welcome the comments or suggestions from the listeners and viewers, and they can send the comments to the email ID of Secretary IFPRD. Before I hand over the mic to Dr. Sanjay Gupta, I would like to request everybody to switch on their video for a while so that I can click a photograph. Just for a few seconds, you can switch on, all of you can switch on your video. A few more.
The next item is vote of thanks. Perhaps that's the last item.
So now I would like to request Dr. Sanjay Gupta, Project Coordinator MULA, to kindly do the honors of proposing a formal vote of thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Aditya. It's our pleasant duty to propose a hearty vote of thanks on this occasion to our mentors, collaborators, panelists, and participants. At the outset, I would like to convey our sincere thanks to Professor S.K. Sarmaji, who is the coordinator and the moderator of the today's brainstorming session. He has steered the session so professionally that we could get some points for our action plan through the discussions. Sir, you have been, for us, for the cause of pulses in the country, always supported us in all other endeavors. So despite of your extremely busy schedule, you have acceded to our request for our participation in the seminar, and we wholeheartedly thank you, sir. We are equally grateful to our all eminent panelists. Today in the discussion, there have been 10 panelists, and each one of you played key role not only in the today's deliberations, but entire journey of a decade in shaping the pulses program in this country. Not only your journey for marching towards self-sufficiency, but through our discussion, I could gather it that not only self-sufficiency, we can build revolution on pulses, as happened in the oilseed, which happened in other crops. We can also build revolution on pulses. I'm very much thankful to Dr. S.K. Jha, Honorable ADG ONP, is representing ICAR, to be with us since morning and provided wholehearted support not only in organizing this session, but also in guiding us how to move our pulse program in the country. You demanded action plan from the deliberations which we had today, and what I gathered 3 important points which can be the part of the action plan for pulses, not only achieving self-sufficiency, but for building revolution on pulses. And the first is the area expansion. It is really key because we are in the opinion that whenever we are around 30 million hectare area under pulses, we are comfortable. Our director, Dr. NP Singh, has projected that we can add 4 to 5 million hectare area under pulses. If we can do it, it will be really a testing for us to build revolution on pulses. And for this, can we have a campaign? We can propose a campaign to the government that food from fallows. Rice fallow is one, but there is good area in the Bundelkhand under Kharif fallows. There is area in the hills, we can call it Hilalu. There is area in northeastern regions. So that can be a one campaign, food from fallows, that can help us in bringing additional area under pulses, and that will be very good for our agenda. We have proposed government two important schemes. One was the biofertilizer and bioagents hub. Our director sir has mentioned that we will steer up this and to the government. Again, we will force and will have this program in our domain. And second is micro irrigation, because single irrigation, what we call is life-saving irrigation, can bring revolution in the pulses. So already the government is having program on the micro irrigations, but we can bring that program to our pulses also. So this is one package, food from fallows. And second is, can we make our crops premium crops by adding some value to it? We have example that our 66% of the moong bean is going for plating purpose. We can have varieties in gram for parching purpose. We can have varieties biofortified lentil for weaning food. So that's why we can link industry, and by doing so, we can make our pulses aligning with the Prime Minister call for doubling farmers' income. Because if we add the value to our pulses, it will have alignment to the call of the Prime Minister for doubling farming income. And third point, which is the last point, can we organize forward and backward linkages in the pulses, right from the pulses production, processing, marketing, and trade. If we can do it like other crops, commodity boards are there, we can propose to government to establish commodity boards in the cooperatives mode, including growers organizations, cooperatives, FPOs, and all those. So these are three things we can propose to the government for the cause of our pulses, for building revolution on the pulses. I am very much thankful to, these are the three action points we can propose to the government on pulses. I am very much thankful to the Honorable Director General and Secretary there, ICAR, Dr. T. Mahapatra. He is the Chief Patron of ISPRD, who has always been with us, so supportive, suggestive, and proactive for pulses promotion in the country. We are equally thankful to our Honorable Deputy Director General, Crop Sciences, Dr. T.R. Sharma. He is the patron of our society, for his support and confidence on us that yes, this group can lead pulses in the country and bring revolution in the pulses. I am very much thankful to Dr. N.P. Singh, who has been really an inspiring source, provided us a dynamic leadership, and his involvement in all such programs. Really, sir, I am very much thankful for your support for these programs. I am also thankful to Dr. I.P. Singh, President of the Society, and Dr. Rajiv Arsene, Vice President of the Society. You have been always laudable for the cause of pulses, and I thank all of you profusely. And we hope that many more events will be there for the promotion of the pulses in the country. We are also thankful to our past director, particularly Dr. Masood Ali sir. Really, sir, I remember you last decade. We had meeting with the brainstorming meeting in 2010. Then we had meeting with the Honorable Minister of Agriculture in his chamber. We made a roadmap, and then expert committee on pulses. All those things were happened, and that made it possible to bring this day when we call with the proud that we are having self-sufficiency in the pulses. Thank you, sir, for your involvement in our pulses program, your guidance, your support.
Dr. Nagarajan sir, he's not well today, so he could not join us. And equally, we are very much thankful to him also. We had the message from Dr. Salimat sir. He's also not well, so he could not attend this program. In this program, through virtual mode, at present 98 participants joined, and the 300 participants joined through the other means like YouTube and other channels. So I'm thankful to all of them. Really, at this point of time, I would like to thank Dr. B.V. Singh sir. In this whole journey, sir, you are the champion. We saw you how you worked closely with the PMO office at that time when we were formulating a strategy, not only the programs, but the mega program on the seed hub that you brought. It was your effort. Sir, we are really thankful to you. And today you have given very good advice. We have noted down, and that will be the part of our strategy in focusing pulses program in the country. Last but not the least, I am thankful and also from the core of my heart to all the office bearer of the ISPRD as well as the research staff working with us in a smooth organization of meeting. The efforts of Dr. Devraj Mishra, Dr. Miyanlal Rathod, Mr. Ankit Mishra, and Ms. Sneha Tiwari deserve a special mention here. In the end, I thank one and all who directly or indirectly contributed towards the grand success of this mega event. Thank you very much.
So with this, we come to the end of this meeting. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Shall we close?
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, sir.